Even a survivor who had cheated death countless times could not escape the echoing demands of a world determined to break him. The world snapped into stark, opulent clarity around Linghu Qiang, already fraught with unseen tension. A searing headache pulsed behind his eyes, the remnants of a phantom voice still burning in his mind. Then, a sudden, sharp impact cracked across his skull. Grandfather Linghu's furious voice cut through the air, demanding he greet Miss Xiao, his heavy hand still stinging Linghu Qiang's head. A holographic system materialized, its cold, digital voice immediately clarifying the source of the attack, his own grandfather. The system then laid bare his dire predicament. He was the antagonist Linghu Qiang, trapped in mad consort of the Four Seas Dragon King, with just 5 chapters separating him from oblivion. 5 chapters. Linghu Qiang couldn't decide if such a short run was a mercy or a crueler form of torment. Another blow threatened to land, and Linghu Qiang braced for the impact. His grandfather's threats of cruelty hammered down, leaving Linghu Qiang no choice but to calmly assent. Then, a polite greeting from Miss Xiao brought Linghu Qiang back to the immediate, awkward present. How much time had truly passed since he first plunged into this endless literary journey? The answer eluded him. It all began, he recalled, with a sudden, devastating disaster. Before, the world had shattered around him as a massive billboard collapsed. He thought he was dead, crushed beneath a violently splintering pillar. Then came the blinding, roaring explosions. Amidst the falling debris and overwhelming chaos, the system's voice cut through, binding him to the antagonist's counterattack plan and a life of transmigration through countless novels. His singular mission was to embody a doomed antagonist, survive, and earn enough rewards to finally return to his own world. Though he'd seen some successes, his failures were far more numerous, often ending with protagonists launching barrages of missiles. One such protagonist had simply laughed, unleashing a golden, explosive projectile. The blast engulfed Linghu Qiang. He was lost in a flurry of relentless, fiery impacts. Even when facing a protagonist who boasted of catching missiles bare-handed, Linghu Qiang could only marvel at their absurd power. Yet even those kings sometimes met an unexpected turn. Still, Linghu Qiang always paid the price, screaming as another explosion consumed him. Other times, a peerless sword immortal simply uttered a word, and Linghu Qiang's body was impaled, sent plummeting from a cliff. Now, in this new world, Linghu Qiang braced himself, wondering what fresh torment awaited him this time. The system's final message echoed in his mind, synchronization complete, he was on his own now, as a luxury car pulled up before him. Linghu Qiang instantly recognized the infamous plot point, the male protagonist's bride snatching was about to begin. A high-heeled foot emerged from the car, signaling the arrival of Miss Xiao Chu Ran. He reached out a hand, certain that the male protagonist, Zhang Beixian, was soon to follow. Indeed, Zhang Beixian, the male protagonist of Mad Consort of the Four Seas Dragon King, walked alongside Xiao Chu Ran, eldest daughter of the powerful Xiao family. Zhang Beixian exuded an idealized charisma, radiating confidence and an almost fated charm. Linghu Qiang merely offered a wry, internal chuckle, wishing he could simply disappear. His polite offer to assist Miss Xiao was met with her immediate, frigid rejection. He was Linghu Qiang, the eldest young master of the powerful Linghu family, but more importantly, he was the loyal dog, chasing Xiao Chu Ran for a year with unrequited devotion, a fact she clearly found exasperating. And then there was the male protagonist, Zhang Beixian, the famed Dragon King of Sang City from the novel, now walking into view. At this critical juncture, Zhang Beixian's role was that of Xiao Chu Ran's protective bodyguard. Bodyguards always got closer to opportunities, Linghu Qiang mused, a fundamental lesson for any would-be antagonist. In this world, Zhang Beixian was truly the unstoppable core, the very axis around which the story revolved. He was the absolute top dog, Linghu Qiang knew, blessed with every possible buff and advantage. And perhaps most critically, Zhang Beixian harbored a deep, instinctive dislike for him. The intimate dynamic between Xiao Chu Ran and Zhang Beixian was painfully clear as she asked him for help, leaving Linghu Qiang to observe their bond from a distance. The original Linghu Qiang, a foolish cannon fodder, had poured all his resources into the Xiao family, only for Xiao Chu Ran's heart to belong solely to Zhang Beixian. With just 5 chapters remaining, Linghu Qiang wondered, could he truly hope to alter the fated relationship between Xiao Chu Ran and Zhang Beixian? In a harem novel where the male protagonist claimed all, Linghu Qiang sighed, a failed ending was practically preordained, perhaps it was best just to give up. But then, a flicker of defiance sparked within him, enduring a quick death might be easier, and so Linghu Qiang called out, Miss Xiao, there's something I want to say to you. Xiao Chu Ran stopped abruptly. With a dismissive turn, Xiao Chu Ran declared she also had something to say, preempting his words. Linghu Qiang simply offered a knowing smile, certain he could predict her exact words. As anticipated, Xiao Churan firmly stated he should abandon all hope, she would never be engaged to him. She continued, determined to reject him no matter the family pressure or political maneuvering. Linghu Qiang simply interrupted, a mischievous glint in his eye, stating he harbored the very same intention. He had no intention of getting involved with her either. Xiao Churan stood utterly stunned, unable to process his sudden, complete agreement. The unexpected declaration that he also intended to call off the engagement left Xiao Churan utterly shocked. Linghu Qiang, however, cut through the tension, demanding to know what new conspiracy they were brewing. Xiao Churan vehemently agreed with Beixian, turning her fury on Linghu Qiang and demanding to know his real scheme. Her defiant words rang out, declaring she would never believe him, but a voice shot back, accusing her of playing hard to get. Linghu Qiang sharply gestured for them to stop. Absolutely not, he dismissed with a confident smirk. Xiao Churan asserted her conviction that she had seen all of Linghu Qiang's recent actions and could not be deceived. With a final dismissive turn, Xiao Churan walked away, leaving Linghu Qiang watching her depart. Linghu Qiang pondered how foolish he must have seemed, playing the role of a loyal dog while Xiao Churan eagerly sought to join Zhang Beixuan's harem. Suddenly, the system's voice cut through the air, declaring its enlightenment and insulting Xiao Churan, who looked around in bewildered surprise. Angered and confused, Xiao Churan demanded to know who dared call her stupid when she was the only woman present. Linghu Qiang tried to calm the situation, while Xiao Churan and Zhang Beixian remained wary. He attempted to reassure Miss Xiao that once they explained to their elders that an engagement was impossible, her worries would cease, but she remained skeptical. Zhang Beixian let out a displeased sound, clearly annoyed. As the system chattered about a derailment, the trio walked through a lavish room. The system, glowing with distress, realized a critical error had occurred, its host's inner thoughts might now be exposed to the world. Panic seized the system as it realized reporting such a grave error would surely lead to its own formatting. The system, having patched the error to only capture Linghu Qiang's thoughts and insults, declared the rest was up to him, leaving him deep in contemplation. Linghu Qiang mused on the novel's original plot, where his character's interference with Zhang Beixuan's women led to a miserable end. A chibi Linghu Qiang joyfully celebrated his realization. By avoiding an engagement to Xiao Churan, Zhang Beixian would have no reason to target him, making survival a piece of cake. Then, with a distinct stop, the protagonist announced their arrival. Zhang Beixian addressed Linghu Qiang and Xiao Churan, who listened intently. Internally, Xiao Churan still wrestled with the mysterious voice she had heard, yet she outwardly responded to an unspoken question. Linghu Qiang wondered why Xiao Churan, usually inseparable from Zhang Beixian, had asked him to wait outside. He noted, with a ding of relief and then a spoken, good news, that Zhang Beixian didn't appear angry. Entering, Linghu Qiang addressed his grandfather. He presented Miss Xiao to Elder Linghu, informing him of her arrival. Elder Linghu welcomed Xiao Churan warmly, correcting Linghu Qiang for still calling her Miss Xiao instead of by her given name. Linghu Qiang respectfully agreed to his grandfather's request to pour tea for Churan. But Linghu Qiang's mind was made up, he couldn't afford to get involved with Sang City's #1 beauty and would leave her for Zhang Beixuan's harem. A mental humph from the system urged the engagement's cancellation, which Xiao Churan heard and, startled, attributed to Linghu Qiang. Xiao Churan felt a cold sweat as she internally fumed, not only at the insult but at the constant accusation of being part of Zhang Beixuan's harem. In a tense alleyway, Zhang Beixian reassured a worried Xiao Churan, asserting his ability to protect her from anyone. Xiao Churan reflected on her deep trust in Zhang Beixian, seeing him as a bodyguard who had saved her life. Despite her comfortable surroundings, Xiao Churan remained troubled, questioning if her harem status was just a rumor. Elder Linghu remarked, pleased, on the restraint shown by the two young people. With a squeak, Xiao Churan abruptly stood, fiercely disagreeing with Elder Linghu's suggestion that it was time for her and Linghu Qiang to get engaged. Passionately, Xiao Churan declared her lack of feelings for Linghu Qiang, insisting that marriage required love, and Linghu Qiang, echoing her sentiment, agreed that forced affection was never sweet. A chibi Linghu Qiang, radiating fierce determination, gave a thumbs up and declared the engagement must be cancelled. Xiao Churan, taken aback, questioned if his agreement was truly sincere. Elder Linghu tried to placate Linghu Qiang, while the unidentified uncle promised the engagement would still happen despite Churan's immaturity. Linghu Qiang, with earnest distress, insisted that Miss Xiao was mature and reasonable, rejecting the idea of her immaturity. His distress clear, Linghu Qiang informed his uncle that Churan had flatly refused to marry him. A chibi Linghu Qiang reacted with frantic screams and desperate pleas, begging for his life and for the marriage to be called off, especially when Elder Linghu surprisingly declared, then don't get married. The system, baffled, wondered at Linghu Qiang's drastic personality shift, especially after he had sent a 5,000-word essay just yesterday professing eternal devotion. The uncle, deeply moved by Linghu Qiang's words, cried tears of admiration before scolding him for not having boundaries despite his affection for Chern. A chibi Linghu Qiang, crying and sniffling, praised his uncle's enterprise-level understanding, while the chibi uncle also shed tears. Elder Linghu, now a chibi himself, angrily scolded Xiao Chu Ran for her defiance, insisting the marriage must proceed. "Uncle!" Linghu Qiang exclaimed, kicking the ground in frustration. A chibi Linghu Qiang, wailing desperately and clinging to an unseen leg, begged for his life and for the marriage not to happen. An unseen voice criticized Xiao Chu Ran for her sudden silence, urging her to throw a tantrum and reject the marriage, as a chibi Linghu Qiang clung crying to her leg. A subtle smirk played on Xiao Chu Ran's lips. Suddenly grabbed, Linghu Qiang looked surprised, declaring he now understood. With a sly and knowing expression, Xiao Chu Ran questioned his earlier words about not getting married, humping with suspicion. She challenged him, suggesting he had changed his mind, leaving Linghu Qiang stunned. Linghu Qiang confidently declared to his father and grandfather that he had figured it out: if feelings were absent, they could be cultivated. Xiao Chu Ran, with a determined and confident expression, agreed to the marriage alliance. Amidst crackling energy, a bewildered Linghu Qiang knelt, utterly confused about his situation. As Linghu Qiang grimaced in pain, an internal voice questioned if he was seriously ill, urging him not to force himself. The distressed Linghu Qiang awkwardly held Xiao Chu Ran while a chaotic internal voice berated him for his dramatic antics, questioning his sanity, as another stressed the importance of parents' wishes and matchmakers' words for the marriage. Xiao Chu Ran playfully asked if he no longer liked her, and Linghu Qiang, still distressed, hesitantly reassured her that he did. Internally, Linghu Qiang raged, wishing he could rather like a big sow or pry open Xiao Chu Ran's head to see if it was smooth enough for a slide. Xiao Chu Ran observed him, an intrigued smile playing on her lips, wondering how she had never noticed his rich inner drama before. She savored the moment, finding it inexplicably refreshing to see him forced to imitate her demeanor, seductively licking her lips. With a swift grab, Xiao Chu Ran assertively seized Linghu Qiang's wrist. Linghu Qiang then led Xiao Chu Ran by the hand, suggesting they leave to talk outside. He called back to an unseen grandpa, excusing their temporary departure. Linghu Qiang, the true strategist, smiled knowingly from the sofa, encouraging them to continue, certain that more private conversation would lead to burgeoning feelings. As they continued walking, Linghu Qiang questioned Xiao Chu Ran about her recent actions. He then pressed her, asking if it wasn't too late to refuse the marriage alliance, but Xiao Chu Ran simply questioned why she should refuse. Xiao Chu Ran defended the arranged marriage, stating it was a family decision and she had no reason to refuse, while Linghu Qiang emphatically disagreed, arguing one should marry for affection. Panic etched on his face, Linghu Qiang pleaded with Xiao Chu Ran, reminding her of her past disdain for him and declaring that marriage was impossible. Xiao Chu Ran, however, mused flirtatiously that while she didn't like anyone now, she might grow to like him after marriage. Inside, Linghu Qiang panicked at her words, begging her not to like him, certain that if she did, he would be doomed and Zhang Beixian would never let him off. Xiao Chu Ran, confused, wondered why Linghu Qiang kept mentioning Zhang Beixian, and what power he held over him. Linghu Qiang, now looking over his shoulder with worry, then abruptly declared it was too late, suggesting she was unaware of Zhang Beixian being the young master of one of Bang City's 4 great families. Xiao Chu Ran pressed him against a wall, demanding a final answer on whether he would accept or refuse the engagement. With defiant confidence, Xiao Chu Ran declared she was not refusing, challenging him to do something about it. Linghu Qiang was left speechless, lamenting internally that he truly couldn't do anything as the scene shifted to the bustling banquet hall. A hand raised a wine glass, proposing a toast to the newly engaged couple. Guests in the grand banquet hall celebrated loudly, cheering for the happy engagement. Guests at the banquet discussed the formidable alliance between the Linghu and Xiao families, anticipating a brilliant future. Linghu Qiang grimaced internally as a voice remarked on the surprising engagement, noting that previous rumors about Xiao Chu Ran disdaining him had been wrong. Zhang Beixian stood composed, holding a wine glass, an unreadable intensity in his gaze. With a violent clench, Zhang Beixian shattered his wine glass, blood spilling from his hand as anger coursed through him. Enraged, Zhang Beixian roared his objection to the engagement. As Zhang Beixian strode confidently into the grand hall, his arrival was announced, confirming Linghu Qiang's dreaded fate, while the protagonist feigned confusion, asking who he was. With a confident smirk, Zhang Beixian challenged Linghu Qiang to take a good look and recognize him. Linghu Qiang initially reacted with surprise, then recognized Zhang Beixian, a faint sweat of realization breaking out on his brow. Onlookers reacted with shocked whispers, speculating about Zhang Beixian's identity, while an internal voice found the unfolding drama increasingly interesting. Chibi Linghu Qiang suddenly realized who Zhang Beixian was, identifying him as his daughter's bodyguard. A man from the crowd questioned Zhang Beixuan's authority to speak at such an important occasion, leaving Linghu Qiang utterly confused. The man sneered, mocking Zhang Beixian for being merely a bodyguard who dared to oppose the engagement of the young lady and young master, as onlookers snickered. Linghu Qiang grimaced, covering his eyes in exasperation, pleading with the bystanders to stop provoking him. Angrily, Linghu Qiang fired Zhang Beixian on the spot, banning him from the premises and sarcastically advising him to eat his fill before facing a bleak, jobless future. Zhang Beixian simply offered a dismissive smirk. Zhang Beixian then confronted Xiao Dezhuang, asserting that he had only shown deference because of his daughter, and questioning if the marriage was solely his decision. Xiao Churan defiantly challenged Zhang Beixian, asking if her marriage should be decided by him if even her father's word didn't count. With a furious shout, Linghu Qiang declared he had enough, calling Zhang Beixian a dismissed bodyguard and ordering the guards to escort him out, while Chibi Xiao Churan expressed her disgust at his arrogance. Two guards moved swiftly to confront Zhang Beixian, who stood calmly. With a confident smirk, Zhang Beixian challenged them, stating that 2 guards were far from enough and he was ready to fight 10. The unidentified man ominously declared the challenge accepted. A brutal command to attack rang out as the first opponent flew back, but Zhang Beixian stood ready. A powerful fist connected. An opponent reeled from the crushing impact. Zhang Beixian moved with brutal efficiency, sending his attackers scattering. All together, a man commanded, hoping to overwhelm him. Yet, more rushed in, trying to corner him. Zhang Beixian unleashed a furious, glowing punch. Another powerful strike landed. He stood alone, victorious, as his numerous opponents lay defeated. With glowing red eyes, Zhang Beixian defiantly challenged anyone else to face him. Linghu Qiang shuddered, realizing Zhang Beixuan's rage and desperately searching for an escape. A voice enthusiastically praised Zhang Beixuan's strength. Linghu Qiang found it all profoundly strange as everyone, even his chibi forms, lauded Zhang Beixian, while the system frantically warned him the plot had gone awry. Linghu Qiang remained distressed as Zhang Beixian stood confidently, both observed by a red-haired man. Zhang Beixuan's eyes burned red as he snarled, recognizing a truly cunning scheme. Linghu Qiang, utterly bewildered, questioned if the novel's plot had truly veered off course. He despaired, wondering why the crowd now championed the hero and not the villain, bemoaning his cruel fate. The system blurted a frantic suggestion to simply elope with Xiao Churan, while Linghu Qiang fumed. A woman's sly voice cut through the tension, mockingly asking if he would simply stand there and do nothing. The elegant woman silently found Linghu Qiang's simmering, impotent rage utterly hilarious. Zhang Beixian, chest puffed out, confidently declared that only the young lady's happiness mattered to him. Linghu Qiang stepped forward, a decisive move to address the young lady. Kneeling before Xiao Churan, Linghu Qiang vowed that no one would force her into a marriage, and he would fearlessly face any obstacle for her. Xiao Churan looked up, stunned. Even a chibi version of Linghu Qiang inwardly cheered, urging Zhang Beixian to complete the romantic gesture. The elegant woman sighed, sarcastically declaring they should just leave, utterly annoyed by the spectacle. The system buzzed with confused distress, unable to comprehend the woman's reaction, frantically urging for quick agreement. The elegant woman shot a skeptical glance. Zhang Beixuan's hand tightened on Xiao Churan's leg, asking if she sought escape and promising to take her away. Xiao Churan's face twisted into an angry scowl. No. Xiao Churan angrily rebuked him, slapping his hand away. Who wants to go with you? You're crazy with all this drama. An onlooker gasped in shock at the scene, while Linghu Qiang grimaced in discomfort as Xiao Churan remained furious. Zhang Beixian walked away, leaving Xiao Churan standing alone. He clenched his fist tightly, boiling with unspoken frustration. The elegant woman finally understood Linghu Qiang's plight, realizing their world was a comic and she was merely a supporting character, fearing deviation from her role. Linghu Qiang, observing the elegant woman before him, felt he finally understood the complex thoughts of the character he had become. A distressed Zhang Beixian cried out Xiao Churan's name. Zhang Beixian then pressed Xiao Churan, asking if she feared someone would bother or hurt her in the future. Linghu Qiang, startled by the sudden closeness, nervously asked if Zhang Beixian intended to strike him. Zhang Beixian fiercely warned Linghu Qiang not to touch Xiao Churan, while Linghu Qiang, taken aback, wondered if he was misunderstanding everything. Xiao Churan, frustrated, demanded Zhang Beixian step aside so she could speak with Linghu Qiang. Zhang Beixian insisted Xiao Churan was forcing herself to see Linghu Qiang, declaring he would handle everything for her from now on. Xiao Churan, flushed with anger, furiously rebuked Zhang Beixian, refusing to tolerate his presumptuous claims or go anywhere with him. Zhang Beixian clasped Xiao Churan's hands, convinced she only feigned rejection out of fear of the Linghu family's revenge. Xiao Churan could only stare in wide-eyed confusion as Zhang Beixian bizarrely declared her gentle and kind. Zhang Beixuan's logic proved invincible. He interpreted Xiao Chu Ran's petrified silence as consent and fear of the Linghu family's retaliation. Zhang Beixian confidently mused how such a gentle and understanding girl like Xiao Chu Ran could ever have fallen into the clutches of the Linghu family. With eyes burning red, Zhang Beixian cursed Linghu Qiang, his palpable killing intent making Linghu Qiang realize something was terribly wrong with that look. Linghu Qiang, distressed, recognized the genuine killing intent in Zhang Beixuan's wide, angry eyes, understanding this terrifying scene was ripped straight from the book. A furious voice roared, accusing a despicable woman as a single eye burned with intense, yellow rage. Xiao Chu Ran, shocked and exasperated, wondered if all this elaborate drama was simply an effort to kill her. Xiao Chu Ran angrily confronted Linghu Qiang, accusing him of losing his mind, while a chibi version of him furiously stomped in frustration. As Linghu Qiang stepped forward, he defiantly asked if he looked like he was acting, then scoffed at Zhang Beixian, calling him a toad lusting after swan meat. Linghu Qiang, gesturing grandly, declared that his son-in-law could only be Linghu Hang, leaving a chibi version of himself utterly bewildered. Linghu Qiang gritted his teeth, a fiery rage building as he sarcastically thought about the father-daughter dynamics unfolding. Linghu Qiang mentally warned himself against excessive scheming, yet a strange soreness developed in his neck as his enraged character internally shot imaginary arrows of malice at him. Zhang Beixian, pointing an accusing finger, questioned Linghu Qiang's very humanity for forcing Xiao Chu Ran to marry such a worthless playboy. Zhang Beixian declared his lifelong commitment to only marry Xiao Chu Ran, but she, utterly annoyed, firmly reiterated that she had no need for his vows and would not go with him. Tearful and exasperated, Xiao Chu Ran silently wondered why Zhang Beixian simply couldn't understand plain words, lamenting that trying to reason with him felt like playing a lute to a cow. Zhang Beixian simply laughed, confidently dismissing her rejections as timidity and promising to return for her soon. Linghu Qiang, speaking as Linghu Hang, exclaimed in surprise at Zhang Beixuan's departure, while internally fretting that leaving without his wife went against the plot. Zhang Beixian, hands in his pockets and a smug expression, threatened Linghu Qiang, promising his arrogance would not last and that he would return to end his life. Zhang Beixian then turned his attention, pointing accusingly at those who belittled others and elevated themselves. With angry, glowing red eyes, Zhang Beixian arrogantly declared that everyone present would one day kneel at his feet and beg him. Linghu Qiang, surprised and sweating, asked Zhang Beixian if he was truly leaving, urging him to reconsider. A voice urged him to find a way to take Xiao Chu Ran away, prompting Linghu Qiang to confidently declare to Zhang Beixian that he would indeed take her, keeping his word. Chibi Linghu Qiang, distressed, pleaded internally for Zhang Beixian to take Xiao Chu Ran and spare him from a future confrontation. Xiao Chu Ran buried her face in her hands, overwhelmed by the cacophony of two men shouting incomprehensibly around her. Peeking through her fingers, Xiao Chu Ran's eyes conveyed nothing but pure annoyance. Enraged, Chibi Xiao Chu Ran furiously screamed at the two frightened chibi men, wondering if their endless bickering would ever end. With a sudden, angry grab, Xiao Chu Ran seized Linghu Qiang's arm, surprising both him and Zhang Beixian. Zhang Beixian watched, wide-eyed and stunned by the sudden turn of events. With a decisive kiss, Xiao Chu Ran pressed her lips to Linghu Qiang's, leaving him blushing and utterly surprised. Xiao Chu Ran then defiantly declared her love for Linghu Qiang and her desire to marry him, telling Zhang Beixian to finally leave. Zhang Beixian reacted with a heartbroken cry of denial, unable to comprehend what had just happened. A single tear rolled down Zhang Beixuan's cheek as he lamented Xiao Chu Ran's perceived straying, desperate to save her. With a menacing determination, Zhang Beixian declared his only path forward was to bankrupt the entire Linghu group, leaving Chibi Linghu Qiang utterly confused. Chibi Linghu Qiang gasped in extreme shock, blurting out a surprised exclamation. A glowing system screen appeared before Chibi Linghu Qiang, congratulating the host for completing his first stage task of changing Xiao Chu Ran's mind and securing 5 more chapters of survival. The system then announced the rewards for his first stage task, a massive 600 square meter lakeside villa. Chibi Linghu Qiang, kneeling in mock distress, ironically scoffed that a mere villa was useless when he already possessed immense wealth. Linghu Hang, finally catching a moment of peace, savored the quiet after his grandfather's recent birthday banquet. He smirked, sensing the system's presence, wondering what new chaos it intended to unleash. The system cheerfully announced the second phase of his plot had begun, much to Linghu Hang's chibi distress, realizing it meant more trouble. The novel's intricate plot mandated a marriage alliance between Xiao Chu Ran and Linghu Hang, leading them to a grand banquet hosted by the ailing CEO Tan Zhu. Guests flowed into the opulent banquet hall, unaware of the impending clash. Tan Zhu, a sickly elder, became the center of attention as many, including Linghu Hang, sought his favor with medical offerings, only for the protagonist Zhang Beixian to unexpectedly reappear and threaten everything. Linghu Hang confidently presented his renowned doctor, only to be abruptly interrupted. With a powerful medical scripture now mastered, Zhang Beixian boldly dismissed Linghu Hang's physician, forcing Linghu Hang to proclaim his own medical prowess in a desperate, chibi outburst. Zhang Beixian's hands, imbued with miraculous healing power, were poised to perform a medical marvel. Tan Zhu joyfully rose, proclaiming his healing complete, while a chibi Linghu Hang crumpled in utter despair. This pivotal event stripped Linghu Hang of his crucial privilege, foreshadowing his eventual downfall, as Zhang Beixian disdainfully declared Linghu Hang unwelcome in his sight. The chibi Linghu Hang and his exasperated companion could only sigh at the unfolding disaster. A shadow of annoyance crossed Linghu Hang's face as he realized the banquet was today. The chibi Linghu Hang lamented his inevitable defeat against Zhang Beixian's mastered scripture, anticipating another humiliating beating up from the protagonist, while the system appeared equally distressed. The system urgently reminded him of his mission, survival amidst the antagonist's comeback, just as a voice sharply called his name. A towering figure urged Linghu Hang to depart for Tan Zhu's banquet immediately. Linghu Hang recognized the imposing man, Ho Chang. The system, with an ominous glow, revealed Ho Chang's true nature as the king of provocation. His presence, the system warned, drastically increased Linghu Hang's risk of death by at least 50%. The chibi Linghu Hang, sweating with determination, resolved to eliminate this dangerous brat. With a confident smirk, Linghu Hang informed Ho Chang that he was being sent to America to serve as the Linghu family's stock trader. The chibi Ho Chang recoiled in shock, protesting his utter ignorance of stock trading, as the chibi Linghu Hang playfully pushed him away. The chibi Linghu Hang offered a strangely motivating speech to a confused, backpack-clad Ho Chang, telling him to learn and believe in himself. As the chibi Ho Chang wept tears of joy on the airplane, questioning if he truly was the best, the chibi Linghu Hang offered a final, encouraging word. The chibi Linghu Hang punched the air, celebrating his triumph with unbridled exultation. A deep sigh of relief escaped the chibi Linghu Hang. With Ho Chang gone, he finally felt safe. But then, his golden watch flashed, and Linghu Hang gasped, realizing the banquet had already begun. Guests ascended the grand stairs leading into the Tan family hotel, anticipation shimmering in the air. Zhang Beixian stepped forward decisively, ready to make his entrance. With a subtle click, Zhang Beixian adjusted his tie, his confidence evident. He confidently spoke into his phone, confirming his arrival and asking Xiao Chu Ran about hers. A mischievous chibi Linghu Hang realized that, according to the plot, he was now engaged to Xiao Chu Ran and should address her by her first name. Linghu Hang spotted an elegant woman, a sense of familiarity stirring within him. Her elegant dress shimmered, drawing the eye. A dramatic sound underscored her striking presence. Xiao Chu Ran glided through the venue, making an elegant and impactful entrance. A sudden, shocking realization dawned on Linghu Hang, his hand instinctively going to his chest. Linghu Hang reeled, identifying the woman with Zhang Beixian as his most detested rival, a gut-wrenching confirmation of his worst fears. An elegant woman, Mao Chiyue, calmly acknowledged her name as a palpable tension settled over the glamorous space. The name, Mao Chiyue, struck Linghu Hang like a system alert, triggering a rush of critical plot memories. Before, in college, Linghu Hang and Mao Chiyue shared a sweet, innocent relationship. They held hands, happy and carefree, until an inexplicable misunderstanding tore them apart. Young Linghu Hang pleaded his innocence, desperately trying to explain, but young Mao Chiyue only wept in despair. Over time, Linghu Hang had become Xiao Chu Ran's subservient lackey, drifting further from the heartbroken Mao Chiyue who watched from the shadows. A faint, subtle smile touched Mao Chiyue's lips, a silent acknowledgement of the past. The protagonist mused internally about the juicy love triangle and Linghu Hang's lovesick folly, while an unseen voice interjected a denial. Mao Chiyue snapped her head up, a ripple of surprise crossing her face as she questioned who dared to speak. Her mind raced, questioning if the voice was Linghu Hang muttering to himself, or if someone else entirely was present in their private moment. With a blank look, she began to ask, but her query hung unfinished in the air. In her mind, a chibi Mao Chiyue angrily shouted a direct, familiar greeting. The protagonist's thoughts drifted, contemplating cars and a casual dismissal of woman drivers. A stark realization struck Mao Chiyue, the voice was intimately close, yet Linghu Hang stood far away. The protagonist's thought, playfully illustrated by a chibi Linghu Hang, offered an unseen smoke to an unknown big brother. Linghu Hang remained silent, his gaze fixed in serious contemplation. The protagonist sighed internally, lamenting the female character's inevitable fate in a harem and Linghu Hang's predetermined destiny as a cuckold. Mao Chiyue bristled, radiating pure fury, as the protagonist's thoughts erupted. Someone was stealing his goddess, then his ex-girlfriend, with the male lead specifically targeting his past affections. Xiao Chu Ran's decisive step punctuated her sharp question, demanding to know what nonsense was being spoken. Linghu Hang recoiled in surprise, defensively denying he had uttered a single word. You dare say it but not admit it, Linghu Hang, Mao Qiue accused, her flustered anger barely contained. The protagonist's thoughts, swirling with confusion, mocked Linghu Hang for daring to upset Xiao Chu Ran after such devoted service. Mao Qiue snapped back at the crude thought, demanding to know, lick what, while the protagonist's thoughts bit back, dismissing Xiao Chu Ran as lovesick. Mao Qiue absorbed the protagonist's blunt inner declaration, she was undeniably superior to this person. Her brow furrowed in thought, piecing together the unsettling truth, he seemed unaware she could hear his very thoughts. But the core of her attention shifted, he had called her better than Xiao Chu Ran. Mao Qiue confronted him, her words a direct challenge, you. I mentioned Xiao Chu Ran, and you suddenly have an unhappy expression. She pressed further, questioning if he truly didn't want to marry Xiao Chu Ran, to which Linghu Hang cryptically sighed that marriage was a minefield. Mao Qiue's cheeks flushed, a hopeful curiosity in her voice as she probed why he continued to serve Xiao Chu Ran if he was so unhappy. The protagonist grimaced in his mind, angrily retorting that he was forced into being Xiao Chu Ran's lackey. His thoughts raged, condemning Xiao Chu Ran as a lunatic who manipulated Zhang Beishuan's hatred, wishing he could banish her and critiquing the book's lack of intelligence. Mao Qiue let out a knowing, quiet chuckle, covering her mouth. The protagonist, represented by a confused chibi, wondered if she was stupid for laughing. Mao Qiue tenderly placed a hand on his chest, revealing she had long ago cleared up their past misunderstanding and knew it wasn't his fault. The protagonist's thought, a bittersweet pang of regret, observed that despite the heartfelt moment, Linghu Hang was still destined for marriage. A chibi Linghu Hang, blushing intensely, expressed the protagonist's raw desire to revert to their former relationship, invoking the age-old saying about familiar fields. Overwhelmed, Linghu Hang openly wept in Mao Qiue's arms as the protagonist's thoughts exploded, declaring Mao Qiue 1,000 times better than Xiao Chu Ran and pleading with the heavens to acknowledge it. That resounding declaration, Mao Qiue is 1,000 times better than Xiao Chu Ran, struck Xiao Chu Ran like a physical blow, leaving her shocked and distressed. Linghu Hang's reflection burned, a silent accusation, in the extreme close-up of Xiao Chu Ran's enraged eye. Her fury erupted into a single, piercing scream, echoing his name through the tense night. Fury erupted in Xiao Chu Ran's voice as she called out Linghu Hang's name, echoing through the tense night. She glared, a burning intensity in her eyes, at the smiling man and woman who seemed oblivious to her rage. Her jaw clenched, a steely resolve hardening her expression as she vowed to outsmart her opponent. Feigning affection, Xiao Chu Ran approached, calling for Linghu Hang, leaving him utterly bewildered by her sudden presence. A cunning, almost mischievous smile played on Xiao Chu Ran's lips, suggesting a plan was in motion. With an overtly sweet tone, Xiao Chu Ran clung to Linghu Hang's arm, dramatically calling him husband. Linghu Hang looked utterly confused, as if questioning reality, as Xiao Chu Ran cupped his face. She leaned in close, demanding a kiss, shocking Linghu Hang into a blush. Linghu Hang's mind reeled, frantic with disbelief over Xiao Chu Ran's inexplicable shift in personality. From a distance, the other woman scoffed, seeing through Xiao Chu Ran's performance as nothing but a cheap trick. The woman gave Linghu Hang a parting glance, promising to speak with him later at the banquet, leaving him even more confused. She smiled confidently, brandishing her phone, effectively inviting Linghu Hang to contact her. Xiao Chu Ran watched the woman walk away, a deep resentment brewing within her. Her fingers twisted around Linghu Hang's arm, a painful grip that elicited a sharp gasp from him. Xiao Chu Ran angrily confronted him about his flirtations, but Linghu Hang bluntly asked why she was still acting when no one else was watching. Linghu Hang accused her of not wanting to marry him, prompting Xiao Chu Ran to defiantly ask if he intended to back out of their arrangement. Her grip tightening on his arm, Xiao Chu Ran forcefully reminded him that their public engagement left no room for retreat. Linghu Hang angrily demanded to know why she needed to pursue true love so openly, struggling to shake her off. Xiao Chu Ran defiantly declared her right to decide her own true love, dismissing his concerns. As Linghu Hang walked away from a still furious Xiao Chu Ran, Zhang Beishuan watched the entire exchange from the shadows. Zhang Beishuan observed Xiao Chu Ran with growing concern, noting her palpable distress. Xiao Chu Ran's jaw clenched, her silent anger and pain etched deeply onto her face. Zhang Beishuan's thoughts seethed with judgment for Linghu Hang and profound pity for Xiao Chu Ran. With a firm clench of his fist, Zhang Beishuan declared it his undeniable responsibility to save Xiao Chu Ran, refusing to abandon her. He swore with fierce resolve to utterly crush Linghu Hang, ensuring he would never rise again, and reveal his true colors to Xiao Chu Ran. Later, in the opulent banquet hall, Linghu Hang pushed away Xiao Chu Ran's hand, pleading with her to avoid a public scene. He accused her of stubborn pride, but Xiao Chu Ran shot back, reminding him of their engagement and its implications. Linghu Hang, exasperated, threatened to discuss calling off their engagement if she continued. His thoughts spiraled, panicking over the inevitable arrival of Zhang Beixian and the disastrous implications of him witnessing their argument. Chibi Linghu Hang, filled with comedic distress, resolved to maintain a safe distance from the glaring Chibi Xiao Chu Ran. With a flimsy excuse about being called, Chibi Linghu Hang quickly fled the scene. Xiao Chu Ran stood alone, her voice heavy with disappointment, questioning if Linghu Hang truly hated her. Suddenly, an elderly man in traditional attire pointed at Zhang Beixian, playfully calling him his future son-in-law, catching Zhang Beixian completely off guard. Linghu Hang looked surprised as another man announced he had prepared a special gift for uncle for their meeting. Zhang Beixian then formally introduced the elderly man as Dr. Shengwan, emphasizing that he had brought him specifically for the occasion. The elderly Dr. Shengwan greeted them cheerfully, welcoming the opportunity. Chibi Linghu Hang looked utterly panicked and started sweating profusely. Zhang Beixian's strategic mind calculated how using Dr. Shengwan to treat Tan's illness would solidify a formidable alliance between the Tan, Xiao, and Linghu families. A trembling Chibi Linghu Hang pointed, a dawning suspicion in his voice, at the slyly smiling Chibi Dr. Shengwan. Overwhelmed with shock, Chibi Linghu Hang frantically questioned Dr. Shengwan's identity, wondering if he had heard correctly. Linghu Qiang introduced an elderly man as the renowned doctor he had brought, aware that in the original novel, the divine doctor brought by Linghu Hang also happened to be named Shengwan. He knew this divine doctor was destined to be publicly debunked by Zhang Beixian, who would brand him a quack, leading to Master Tan's public humiliation. The irony stung, he had specifically sent away Ho Chang to avoid this exact scenario, yet the situation was unfolding just as before. The appearance of Dr. Shengwan felt like an outrageous plot twist, leaving him utterly overwhelmed and dramatically distressed. He questioned the absurd nature of time-traveling stories, wondering if crucial plot points were simply unavoidable, no matter how much he tried to change them. Linghu Qiang, feigning surprise, urged Ho Chang to move the divine Dr. Shengwan inside, hoping to expedite the inevitable. Clinging to his stomach, our hero dramatically cried out that he had a sudden stomach ache and urgently needed to find a bathroom. Swiftly darting towards the banquet hall balcony, he called back for the divine doctor to look after him for a moment, leaving a bewildered Ho Chang behind. Later, on the balcony, Linghu Qiang let out a long, weary sigh, the city lights glittering below. He muttered to himself, the situation feeling far too insane to comprehend. A gentle tap on his shoulder pulled him from his thoughts as Mao Qiuyue asked why he was sighing. Leaning closer, Mao Qiuyue keenly observed his tension, inquiring if he was troubled by Xiao Chu Ran's matters. She reached out, commenting that his interactions with his fiancée seemed unnatural. As Mao Qiuye's hand gently found his, Linghu Qiang internally groaned, remembering she was destined to become part of Zhang Beixian's future harem. He pulled away, firmly telling her to let him go, reminding her of his existing engagement. His inner monologue screamed a hard-won lesson: keep hands off beautiful women in these novels, for they all belong to the male lead's harem in the end. Mao Qiuyue confidently dismissed his engagement, stating that such arrangements could easily be broken off, earning a quiet of surprise from him. His willpower was being seriously tested. He cursed his own weakness for charming little demons with apricot eyes and slender waists, clenching his fist in internal struggle. Mao Qiuyue, with a sly blush in her eye, wondered if he truly thought of her that way. Then, she embraced him, declaring her intention to test him again, directly demanding he choose between her and Xiao Chu Ran. Blushing furiously and nearly choking, Linghu Qiang stammered that Xiao Chu Ran was his fiancée, while Mao Qiuyue was merely a passerby. Internally, he cried out that he couldn't take it anymore, a nosebleed beginning to form as Mao Qiuyue held him closer, her sly smile unwavering. Mao Qiuyue teased him for not answering directly, then playfully suggested that even passers-by could become friends, wondering what kind he wanted. He desperately pleaded for her to have some self-respect, while his inner self battled fiercely, urging him to act like a man and simply push her away. Overwhelmed and nose-bleeding, he clutched his chest, lamenting that he was not a man for being unable to resist. Mao Qiuyue laughed, amused by his apparent hypocrisy and hilarious inner thoughts, openly declaring how much she liked him. Linghu Qiang, completely flustered, could only manage a stunned, stammering, "You." Just then, Mao Qiuyue called out to Zhang Beixian, who was walking away in the background, startling Linghu Qiang. He forcefully pushed Mao Qiuyue away, reiterating that as long as he was engaged, she could only ever be a passerby to him. In chibi form, he wept uncontrollably, regretting pushing her away and lamenting how anyone could bear to do such a thing to a woman with such a soft body, internally blaming Zhang Beixian for his own perceived failure. His internal conflict raged, he desperately tried to hold back, fearing he would become an abnormal man and questioning if this was the pitiful fate of a cannon fodder, only able to look but never touch. His survival instincts kicked in, the male lead was here, and his life was more important, as Mao Qiuyue found his distress endearing, winking as she called him, too cute. He fumed, frustrated that she could still smile and laugh despite his fierce rejections, feeling utterly disrespected. In a fit of chibi rage, he angrily declared that female leads in light novels seem to regard no other men as human except for the male lead. Linghu Qiang's internal frustration mounted, wondering why Mao Qiyu found this situation so amusing. Mao Qiyu merely winked, claiming she was simply lost in happy thoughts. The absurdity of the unfolding plot was too much. Linghu Qiang declared he was done and walked away. He internally vowed to avoid all protagonists and especially the infamous divine Dr. Shangguan that night. Linghu Qiang quickly strategized to feign a stomach ache, sacrificing minor dignity for the sake of his very life. Behind him, Mao Qiyu suddenly knelt, calling out with a theatrical plea, "Young master, I've fallen." Linghu Qiang's internal voice bristled with sarcasm, marveling at her ability to fall without moving an inch. Mao Qiyu, self-aware and coy, wondered if this was the kind of performance web novels called a cool female lead. A subtle glance from Linghu Qiang conveyed his growing annoyance. Suddenly, a jolt of alarm shot through Linghu Qiang. Zhang Beixian, the male lead, was approaching. Mao Qiyu extended a hand, plaintively complaining that she couldn't stand and Linghu Qiang refused to help. Confident that Linghu Qiang had rejected Xiao Chern, Mao Qiyu slyly plotted to make him fall for her instead. Unmoved, Linghu Qiang coldly retorted that her high heels were to blame for any fall. Mao Qiyu stared, stunned by his unexpected indifference as he began to walk away. Linghu Qiang stopped dead, realizing his strategic error. He couldn't afford to completely offend Mao Qiyu. He spiraled into a panicked internal calculation of consequences, dreading Mao Qiyu complaining to Zhang Beixian. Linghu Qiang grudgingly accepted the precarious situation, an annoyed huff escaping Mao Qiyu. Mao Qiyu's patience snapped, her voice rising in a fierce threat of serious consequences if Linghu Qiang didn't return to help her. Linghu Qiang's distress was immediate, a panicked refusal escaping him as the chibi Mao Qiyu raged in his mind. Just then, Zhang Beixian arrived, concern etched on his face as he gently embraced Mao Qiyu, telling her to take it slow. Internally, Linghu Qiang bristled, warning her not to lean on the male lead as if she were his concubine. Mao Qiyu vehemently denied such a claim, asserting her noble status, while Zhang Beixian's concern was immediate, offering medical aid. Zhang Beixian carefully helped her move forward. Still feigning helplessness, Mao Qiyu declared she couldn't walk, then turned her plaintive appeal to Linghu Qiang. She provocatively suggested Linghu Qiang simply hold her, reminding him that he had already touched her waist. The suggestive words were too much. Linghu Qiang erupted in a dramatic nosebleed, reeling in shock. He internally protested the blatant, foul play, comparing the scene to a rigged game. Zhang Beixian's voice cut through the air, a sharp command for Linghu Qiang to release her. Linghu Qiang could only stammer Zhang Beixian's name in surprise as the male lead approached, his expression grim. Zhang Beixian, pulling Mao Qiyu protectively behind him, angrily declared Linghu Qiang despicable. Then, with a chilling intensity, Zhang Beixian demanded Linghu Qiang's identity. Surrounded by a furious blue aura, Zhang Beixian pointed an accusing finger, condemning Linghu Qiang as a two-faced scoundrel flirting with innocent girls while engaged. Linghu Qiang could only stare in utter bewilderment, pointing at himself and sputtering a confused denial. Someone's actions drew harsh judgment from the onlookers, with voices calling them shameless and greedy. A sharp call cut through the tension, urging them to stop arguing. Zhang Beixian explosively denied arguing, claiming he was merely delivering unilateral criticism. He raged, demanding Linghu Qiang's disgraceful behavior be exposed to Chern, even making a kicking motion. His leg connected sharply. A man, later revealed as Mao Xiaojun, interrupted, demanding answers about Zhang Beixian's identity and his relationship with his sister. The air crackled as Mao Xiaojun, heir of the Mao family, exchanged an intense stare with Zhang Beixian. In that moment, a silent, mutual understanding sparked between them. Linghu Qiang's mind reeled, a cold dread settled as he recognized a conspiracy. Mao Qiyu and Mao Xiaojun, children of the Mao family's senior sons, were supposedly rivals, assisting their fathers in a bitter struggle for control of the family assets. But before the inheritance war truly began, Zhang Beixian and Mao Xiaojun had already secretly sealed a pact with a firm handshake. Zhang Beixian's scheme involved convincing Mao Xiaojun to lure Mao Qiyu's father into investing hundreds of billions in a doomed, Mars photovoltaic plan. The project was designed to fail, ensuring the inheritance would fall to Mao Xiaojun's side, yet Zhang Beixian harbored even deeper, hidden plans. When the investment inevitably collapsed, Zhang Beixian would help Mao Qiyu, securing her favor and bringing her into his collection of concubines. Linghu Qiang seethed, the full depravity of their scheme hitting him with disgust. Suddenly, Mao Qiyu's own shock turned to a stark, distressed realization. Mao Xiaojun approached with a feigned concern, asking his sister what was wrong as she clutched her chest. A cold shiver ran through Mao Qiyu as she uttered Mao Xiaojun's name, her eyes wide with shock. The treacherous truth dawned on Mao Qiyu, her own brother conspired against her with outsiders, and her father had indeed invested in the Mars photovoltaic plan. Her mind whirled, desperately trying to process the shocking betrayal. Feigning dizziness and pushing someone away, Mao Chiyu tried to buy time, her mind racing with a new question: how could Linghu Qiang, who always avoided business, know about the plan? She held her wine glass, lost in thought. As she sat, a new, softening thought bloomed: could Linghu Qiang have been secretly caring for her all this time? A blush crept over her cheeks as the revelation hit. Linghu Qiang had always been thinking of her, and if this wasn't true love, she wondered, then what was? A forceful hand suddenly dragged the man away. Zhang Beixian, his voice sharp, grabbed Linghu Qiang, ordering him to leave and accusing him of bullying Mao Chiyu. Mao Chiyu cried out, an urgent plea in her voice. She quickly clarified that Linghu Qiang had merely helped her up, acting with utmost gentlemanliness, and demanded Zhang Beixian release young Master Hang. Zhang Beixian snarled back, accusing her of baseless curses and questioning her authority as a mere bodyguard. His stare burned with unrelenting fury. Linghu Qiang groaned internally, lamenting his misfortune at being dragged into another mess, certain that any insults aimed at Zhang Beixian would eventually fall back on him. Mao Chiyu turned to Linghu Qiang, secretly feigning a leg injury and asking him to help her rest. Terrified, Linghu Qiang tried to deflect, stammering that she should find someone else. But Mao Chiyu gripped his arm, threatening to accuse him of harassment if he dared refuse her. Linghu Qiang seethed, mentally branding her a venomous woman, while Mao Chiyu merely smirked with sly satisfaction. Then, Mao Chiyu turned to her older brother, Mao Xiaojun, new, cold determination in her eyes as she vowed to uncover the truth and settle their score. Mao Xiaojun could only stare in dumbfounded confusion. As a voice politely offered a seat, Linghu Qiang, already caught in a trap, desperately plotted his escape, vowing to vanish the moment he was free. Jingpiao. Linghu Qiang's grip snapped shut, declaring no escape for her now. Mao Chiyu's casual demand for a leg massage left Linghu Qiang stammering, caught completely off guard by her audacity. Toei. How could he possibly massage her like this, Linghu Qiang wondered, dreading Zhang Beixian's inevitable fury. Nye. Mao Chiyu pressed him, feigning innocence, as Linghu Qiang reluctantly began to comply with her request. When Mao Chiyu threatened to accuse him of assault, Linghu Qiang roared back in his mind, exasperated by her recycled tactics. Mao Chiyu, savoring her control, slowly counted down, 3, 2, 1. Mao Chiyu declared, poised to scream, forcing Linghu Qiang to frantically concede to her demands. M.O. With a sigh of resignation, Linghu Qiang began the massage. She. Pi. A soft hum escaped Mao Chiyu's lips as the massage hit its mark. Is the pressure okay? Linghu Qiang asked, but Mao Chiyu, blushing, simply requested he go a little harder. Shen. Ji. Linghu Qiang's hands crept higher, his mind screaming that he was going too far. Fen Kai. His hands moved intimately, and Linghu Qiang dared to ask if he should massage further. Wu Mao Chiyu's blush deepened as she softly instructed him, not there. Jing. Hey. As Mao Chiyu gasped with a mix of pleasure and distress, Linghu Qiang, oblivious, simply pressed her for feedback. Is it fast enough? Is it strong enough? Who saw? So nice. You really know how to massage. Mao Chiyu exclaimed, but Linghu Qiang only felt bewildered by her intense pleasure, as the scene then shifted to an evening in a small garden. Hua. Sasa. A match flared, briefly illuminating hands as a cigarette was lit. The man sought counsel from Mao Xiaojun, lamenting that Linghu Hang was misleading Miss Mao, making her disregard him. Ha! Mao Xiaojun exhaled smoke, calmly deducing the man's affection for his sister, then declared the solution simple. Hua! Jia! Mao Xiaojun leaned in, advising that his sister admired strength and capable men, and impressing her would naturally win her over. Yet the man still harbored doubts, questioning if Miss Mao and Linghu Hang's apparent closeness stemmed from a past connection. Mao Xiaojun dismissed the concern, explaining that their past conversations were irrelevant. Linghu Hang was engaged, and they only met occasionally to catch up. Xiao. Don't think too much of it, Mao Xiaojun said abruptly, crushing his cigarette before excusing himself to the restroom. Damn it, the man growled, left to simmer in his frustration as Mao Xiaojun walked away. New. With burning red eyes, the man swore a venomous oath, Linghu Hang, one day, all these women around you will fall into my arms. Hello, a distant voice called out, making the vengeful man turn, surprised. The vengeful man eagerly inquired about a divine doctor his future son-in-law had found, requesting an introduction from the other man, who readily agreed to the family favor. A sly wink from Mao Xiaojun confirmed it. The opportune moment had arrived to dismantle the Xiao, Mao, and Tan families. As evening fell over old Tan's room, a desperate voice shattered the quiet. Bad news. He fainted. Urgent pleas filled the lavish room, as voices cried out for the unconscious elder to wake, demanding life-saving medicine be brought at once. The calm man declared uncle's condition was worsening, then turned to Zhang Beixian and Dr. Shengguan, asking if the divine doctor knew what was happening. Dr. Shengguan confidently confirmed that his diagnosis was almost certain. He then stated his intention to check the patient's pulse for full verification. A triumphant Zhang Beixian inwardly gloated, certain that Linghu Qiang, disguised as Linghu Hang, was finally finished, feeling a crash of satisfaction. Suddenly, a man exclaimed in relief, announcing that the elder, Tan Zhu, was awake, eliciting a soft thud of surprise from those gathered. The elder's son lamented that countless famous doctors had found no groundbreaking changes in his father's illness, and the only effective medicine was steadily losing its potency. He desperately appealed to everyone present, promising the Tan family's eternal gratitude for any solution to his father's lingering malady. Amidst hushed whispers, a man introduced the head of the Tan family, as another challenged someone's purported medical skills regarding old Master Tan's dire condition. Zhang Beixian scoffed internally, dismissing the other's attempts to curry favor with the Tan family as utterly transparent. He calculated that if the man gained the Tan family's connection, he could also secure the Mao family CEO role, which Zhang Beixian decided to allow for his own strategic gain. The diagnostician admitted he couldn't be certain without checking a pulse, yet estimated at least a 50% chance of cure based on initial observation. The pleased man's eyes narrowed in satisfaction, believing his judgment of the diagnostician had been proven correct. Asserting his claim for credit, the confident man lightly patted the other on the shoulder, promising a share of the benefits. Internally deeming the other man a fool, the plotter recognized his present usefulness for social climbing, then pushed to check the old master's pulse immediately. Zhang Beixian abruptly halted him, prompting the surprised man to question why. Zhang Beixian explained his strategy, like casting a brick to attract jade, letting others fail first would brilliantly highlight their own superior abilities later. The surprised man, recalling the divine doctor brought by the Xiao family, finally understood Zhang Beixian's words. Alarm etched across his face, the worried man panicked, wondering what if this renowned divine doctor actually cured the elder. Zhang Beixian calmly exhaled, dismissing the possibility, explaining that if even such a famous doctor failed, their success would shine all the brighter. The thoughtful man conceded Zhang Beixian made a good point, his brow still furrowed in contemplation. The enthusiastic ally, in a chibified form, praised Zhang Beixian's meticulous planning and eagerly offered his assistance. The eager man grabbed another's arm and declared loudly, "Big Brother Tan. We have a divine doctor here." The persuader introduced Dr. Shengguan, the divine doctor brought by the Xiao family, and suggested he examine the old master. The eager man, his face full of hope, turned to the other man, declaring their trust in Big Brother Xiao and Dr. Shengguan that day. Under the palpable pressure of those around him, Dr. Shengguan calmly agreed to take a look. He cleared his throat, turning back with a puzzled expression as if questioning something unseen. In a chibified moment, Dr. Shengguan slyly whispered Linghu Qiang to the understanding man, who nodded in acknowledgement. Linghu Qiang, in a surge of chibi panic, internally screamed at the absurdity of the situation, desperate to flee. The comforting man gently placed his hands over the elder's, reassuring him, "Uncle, don't worry." The confident man then extolled the virtues of Dr. Shengguan, a descendant of the 18th generation of imperial physicians, assuring the elder that his illness would surely be cured. Linghu Qiang, eyes wide with distress, silently fretted that such absurd promises would eventually backfire onto him, as the pulse-taker began his examination. After observing the pulse, Dr. Shengguan confidently declared the illness was indeed not incurable, prompting a surprised smile from the other man. Dr. Shengguan then detailed the complex diagnosis of liver and gallbladder stagnation, confident that his Wang family's heavenly silkworm 9 divine needles would cure the dangerous condition. Zhang Beixian, however, contemptuously dismissed the silkworm 9 divine needles as inferior to his own heavenly flower spiritual gathering divine needle, predicting Dr. Shengguan's downfall and the collapse of both the Xiao and Linghu families. The moment was set, a directive to begin the delicate procedure. Before Dr. Shengguan could start, a man requested the presence of young Master Linghu. From his bed, Linghu Qiang internally questioned if he was truly being called upon. Dr. Shengguan slyly asked Linghu Qiang for his assistance, but our hero internally panicked, insisting he knew nothing of medicine. Linghu Qiang's mind screamed, questioning the doctor's judgment, feeling utterly distressed by the absurd request. The system declared that if Linghu Qiang didn't survive, it would be all Dr. Shengguan's fault, as the doctor smoothly dismissed his protest as mere humility. Dr. Shengguan then challenged Linghu Qiang, asking if he still planned to keep his supposed medical skills a secret from everyone. With a mischievous smile, Dr. Shengguan fabricated a tale of Linghu Qiang's innate medical talent, claiming he had once cured his shoulder with 2 precise punches. The system mocked Dr. Shengguan's transparent adoration, while Linghu Qiang was horrified by the blatant flattery. Taking charge, Dr. Shangwan prepared his acupuncture needles, confidently instructing Linghu Qiang to disinfect them and hand them over. Linghu Qiang, from the patient's perspective, thought of the headache symptoms and the guiding principle for choosing acupuncture points. As a needle was inserted, he internally recalled the specific point needed to disperse the wind and cold, and to regulate the meridian's qi. He then listed the sequence of acupuncture points and their traditional effects, all meant to invigorate blood and open the meridians, as the others observed. Zhang Beixian, however, offered a cold, knowing smile, hinting at a hidden agenda. He then criticized the technique, claiming the strength was lacking, which ignited an angry retort from Dr. Shangwan, demanding to know where this ignorant child came from. Zhang Beixian confidently challenged a bewildered bystander, accusing him of guilt for not meeting his gaze. Enraged, Dr. Shangwan pointed a furious finger, demanding to know Zhang Beixian's identity. Dr. Shangwan then furiously ordered young Master Tan to remove Zhang Beixian, calling him trash unfit to be in the old master's presence. Young Master Tan subtly dismissed the demand with a wave of his hand. Zhang Beixian seized the moment to make his case to young Master Tan, boldly claiming to be the only one who could cure the old master, warning that his expulsion would extinguish all hope. Dr. Shangwan, incensed by Zhang Beixian's arrogance, loudly declared himself the true hope, while Linghu Qiang watched the scene unfold with internal curiosity. Linghu Qiang was gripped by intense nervousness as the system internally commented on the escalating conflict. A tense quiet settled, and the system wondered if a betting segment was about to begin. A woman reacted with a surprised query, asking about betting. Zhang Beixian seized his chance, challenging them to a bet, which young Master Tan confidently accepted. Dr. Shangwan reacted with a thoughtful sound, considering the challenge. He then explained the purpose of his acupuncture technique, clarifying that the procedure aimed to restore vitality and required one last crucial needle after a brief pause. Dr. Shangwan dramatically raised the stakes for the bet, demanding Zhang Beixian kneel and bow before everyone if he succeeded, and then added another condition. He made an aggressive pointing gesture, emphasizing his next statement. Dr. Shangwan unexpectedly declared that Zhang Beixian would also have to bow to Linghu Qiang, provoking a shocked and confused outburst from our hero. Zhang Beixian accepted the bet but immediately countered, asking about the consequences if Dr. Shangwan failed. Linghu Qiang instantly sensed trouble, exclaiming internally, "Not good." He urgently reached out, attempting to intervene and warn Dr. Shangwan. Zhang Beixian then threatened Linghu Qiang with personal humiliation if Dr. Shangwan failed, yet Linghu Qiang, despite his terror, defiantly accepted the bet. Linghu Qiang collapsed in utter horror as the system revealed his terrible luck and Dr. Shangwan's predetermined failure according to the plot. The system explained that Dr. Shangwan was critically missing the bloodletting at the Dasui point, a secret known only to a smug Zhang Beixian. Dr. Shangwan looked confused and annoyed, utterly unaware that his technique would inadvertently aid Zhang Beixian's machinations. Linghu Qiang shed tears of despair, resigning himself to the plot's inevitability, believing that Zhang Beixian, as the destined protagonist, would triumph regardless. A woman thoughtfully questioned the mention of bleeding at the Dasui point. Mao Qiue declared with fierce determination that she could not allow Zhang Beixian to succeed, even if it meant avoiding becoming one of his concubines. A sharp needle pulled free, a flash of light searing the air. The final needle was extracted, signaling the procedure's end for the old master, who still bore the strain. After a long struggle, the old master rose to his feet, a success long awaited. His chest and head pain significantly eased. Tan Zhu expressed profound gratitude, calling Dr. Shangwan truly remarkable. Mao Qiue hailed Dr. Shangwan as a true divine physician, while Zhang Beixian admitted the display had been eye-opening. Linghu Qiang's mind raced, a chilling thought emerging. The original plot described old Master Tan coughing up blood. He realized this was Zhang Beixian's cue to intervene, just as a sickening cough echoed. Old Master Tan convulsed, spewing blood, and Linghu Qiang cried out, "Father! What's going on?" With a snort, Zhang Beixian's smug challenge hung in the air. Did they believe him now? Dr. Shangwan, his previous confidence shattered, seethed, calling Zhang Beixian a mere quack. Linghu Qiang, frantic for his father's fate, pressed Dr. Shangwan for an immediate solution. Zhang Beixian chuckled, reveling in their misfortune, stating that old Master Tan would have been healed if they had sought him out sooner. He continued to gloat, proclaiming their schemes thwarted and their trust misplaced in a quack. Taking a deliberate step, Zhang Beixian announced a change to their bet. They no longer needed to kneel and bow. The new condition was revealed: lick his shoes clean, and the bet would be annulled. Xiao Chu Ran's urgent voice cut through the tension, interrupting the humiliating demand. Both women stood firm, their expressions resolved against the audacity of the new terms. A man, seething with anger, accused Mao Qiue of contacting her ex and promised to deal with her later. He then attempted to soothe Xiao Chu Ran, telling her not to get angry, as the other man wasn't worth it. Zhang Beixian justified his cruel condition, claiming it was to teach Linghu Qiang a lesson for his perceived fickleness with women. Xiao Chu ran, her face a mask of scorn, challenged Linghu Qiang's very worth, stating that she had no need for him. Linghu Qiang asserted his understanding of Dr. Shengwan, recalling a previous successful treatment of a patient with similar symptoms. He questioned what specific technique the divine doctor had ultimately used in that past success. Suddenly, Mao Qiue exclaimed the answer, bloodletting at the Dazhui point, shocking Linghu Qiang with the revelation. Mao Qiue inwardly suspected someone was feigning ignorance, before recalling her own past experiences seeing Dr. Shengwan treat patients. As Mao Qiue declared bloodletting at the Dazhui point was Dr. Shengwan's signature skill, Linghu Qiang inwardly grappled with his own ignorance. Dr. Shengwan, clutching his head in confusion, internally acknowledged that the method was indeed appropriate for this situation. Zhang Beixian calmly reassured everyone that the blood coughing was a necessary cleansing, promising to complete the bloodletting and restore health. Linghu Qiang cursed inwardly, shocked that Zhang Beixian had indeed figured out the crucial next step. As Zhang Beixian confidently drew the blood, Linghu Qiang anxiously asked if everything was alright, receiving a firm reassurance. Old Master Tan suddenly cried out, eyes glowing, sparking an equally horrified shout from Linghu Qiang. A golden glow surrounded Old Master Tan as he exulted in his renewed vitality, declaring his senses sharp and his body brimming with endless energy. Feeling completely rejuvenated, Tan Zhu excitedly praised Zhang Beixian, who then acknowledged Dr. Shengwan and even Linghu Qiang. Linghu Qiang's mind raged, damning the situation. This was his ultimate skill, how could Dr. Shengwan, a mere quack, possibly know it? Dr. Shengwan, now utterly smug, taunted Linghu Qiang, reminding him of the bet and his promise to kneel if he lost. With a huff of triumph and a furious gesture, Dr. Shengwan demanded he fulfill his promise and kneel before young Master Linghu. Zhang Beixian's resolve hardened, his eyes glinting with fierce determination. He launched into a scathing attack, branding his opponents as half-baked quacks and their methods, brainless, dismissing them all as arrogant fools. An older man in red robes swiftly rose to defend the half-baked quack, challenging the critic's audacity to speak so boldly. Meanwhile, in the opulent hall, Zhang Beixian approached the central figure of Mao Xiaojun, as the elder in red watched. Mao Xiaojun internally groaned, wishing desperately to avoid entanglement in the legendary feud unfolding before him. As unseen voices praised the divine doctor for his undeniable skill, Dr. Shengwan, seen slyly contemplating, boasted internally of his heaven-defying spiritual needle, refusing to yield to any flawed method. A distinct sound of a needle gripping tight signaled Dr. Shengwan's readiness. He determinedly declared to himself that he would showcase the true power of his heavenly flower spiritual gathering divine needle. Zhang Beixian stood quietly beside Xiao Chu Ran, both observing the unfolding scene. Thinking of Xiao Chu Ran, Zhang Beixian made a precise, sweeping gesture, igniting sparkling energy around him, intent on displaying his prowess. A younger observer gasped in awe, questioning if the dazzling display was mere magic. Another, older voice immediately recognized it as the legendary Heavenly Flower Spiritual Gathering Divine Needle, marveling at its true energy manipulation. An impressed observer mused on Zhang Beixian's unexpected skill, recognizing his ability to manipulate fine silver needles with internal energy. From his vantage point, Mao Xiaojun cynically dismissed the dazzling spectacle as a mere diversion, a showy trick to avoid kneeling. Expecting Xiao Chu Ran and Mao Qiue to be utterly stunned by Zhang Beixian's show, Mao Xiaojun was instead met with their surprising gaze. Internally, Mao Xiaojun panicked, flustered by their unexpected attention and confusion as to why they weren't focused on Zhang Beixian. Mao Qiue stared intently, a surprised realization dawning in her mind. Xiao Chu Ran's eyes widened in profound disbelief. Elsewhere, a young woman playfully chided a blushing man, telling him to look at her openly. Xiao Chu Ran scoffed, her cheeks flushing with annoyance at the shameless display. One man diplomatically suggested Zhang Beixian possessed exceptional skills and merely had a different approach than Elder Shengwan, hoping to smooth over any lingering tension. The older man in red robes, behind sunglasses, thought cynically about the arrogance involved and how difficult it would be to achieve reconciliation. Dr. Shengwan forced a smile, dismissively calling the elder's comment a joke, though his internal irritation was palpable. Another man praised the elder's astonishing demonstration, urging everyone to unite in their shared goal of Old Master Tan's recovery. A commanding voice cut through the air, demanding everyone's attention. Tan Zhu, now fully recovered, stood tall and offered his heartfelt appreciation to everyone gathered. Linghu Qiang internally scoffed, damning Mao Xiaojun as Zhang Beixian's ultimate lackey. Linghu Qiang's frustration mounted as he imagined Mao Xiaojun, Zhang Beixian's top bootlicker, breaking his legs if he were to lose the bet. A heavy sigh escaped Linghu Qiang, a silent testament to his profound distress. Zhang Beixian, his concern evident, reached out to Xiao Chu Ran, admitting his harsh words in an emotional moment, as she recoiled with a gasp. Xiao Chu Ran took a decisive step back, creating distance. Her voice sharp with anger, Xiao Chu Ran declared his problems were his own and she needed no explanation. Zhang Beixian was utterly stunned by her unexpected fury, a bead of sweat forming on his brow. Clutching her arms, Zhang Beixian passionately insisted she deserved an explanation, vowing to rise above his current bodyguard status to provide her a life of wealth and luxury. As Zhang Beixian held Xiao Chu Ran close and kissed her hair, a chibi Mao Xiaojun and Mao Qiue subtly eavesdropped, their expressions a mix of annoyance and confusion. Zhang Beixian, with a determined expression and a tear in his eye, earnestly declared that his arduous efforts were all for her, driven by a desire for a stronger future. Stunned by his fervent declaration, Xiao Chu Ran questioned if his heartfelt efforts were truly for her. Smiling, Zhang Beixian confidently elaborated on his superior medical skills, claiming he could have healed old Master Tan with just 3 needles. Mao Xiaojun, listening intently, cynically dismissed Zhang Beixian's declarations as manipulative tactics, scoffing at women who fell for such acts. Xiao Chu Ran remained lost in thought, a pensive sadness clouding her profile. She pondered Zhang Beixian's past, heartfelt words, wondering if they had merely been calculated tactics. Xiao Chu Ran's thoughts drifted to Linghu Qiang, an unspoken question lingering, just as Zhang Beixian touched her hand, hopefully asking if she had forgiven him. Linghu Qiang dismissed the entire affair as a formality, musing about scumbags with harems, and questioning his own commitment to the engagement. Xiao Chu Ran pulled her hand away with a subtle smile, as an unidentified man asked her what was wrong, while Mao Xiaojuan's internal thought lingered, my wife. Mao Qiue, stern and challenging, mentally recalled the bet's terms, scoffing at the thought of anyone escaping their public kneeling. An incredible revelation left Mao Xiaojun utterly shocked, his eyes wide with disbelief. He spun around, questioning Mao Qiue what could possibly be happening. Mao Qiue, however, remained stubbornly annoyed, as Mao Xiaojun pressed her, asking why she was provoking Linghu Qiang when he had already found a way out. Her chibi form snorted in indignant anger, leaving Mao Xiaojun utterly confused. Frustrated, Mao Qiue insisted they should be looking at Zhang Beixian instead of her. She then sharply reminded them of the bet, whoever lost had to kneel. Mao Xiaojun reacted with furious indignation, refusing to kneel to someone he considered a good-for-nothing. Linghu Qiang's mind raced in distress, wondering if the novel's plot was malfunctioning, trying to force him back onto the villain's path, and if a cannon fodder's life even mattered, all while Xiao Chu Ran worriedly clutched his hand. Xiao Chu Ran, however, interpreted the gesture with a self-satisfied blush, convinced Linghu Qiang still loved her. Flustered, she quickly explained that the hand-holding had been completely subconscious. Confused, Linghu Qiang looked back as Xiao Chu Ran called out the name Linghu Heng. Meanwhile, an unseen voice, likely Mao Xiaojuan's, urged Linghu Qiang, still referred to as Linghu Heng, to accept his loss, trembling with fear. Linghu Qiang stared, stunned, as Xiao Chu Ran's voice resonated around him. Zhang Beixian, smirking confidently, internally celebrated Xiao Chu Ran's actions, believing she was protecting his reputation and loved him. With a hiss of conviction, Zhang Beixian confidently declared that he understood Xiao Chu Ran's intentions were to make him a righteous man, vowing no one would question his character in this matter, much to Xiao Chu Ran's flustered surprise. Zhang Beixian's gaze hardened, fixed with serious determination. Linghu Qiang, surprised and distressed, questioned Zhang Beixian's intentions, refusing to betray Xiao Chu Ran's supposed goodwill, while Xiao Chu Ran looked on with surprise at Linghu Qiang. Linghu Qiang glared fiercely, declaring that he would kneel for Xiao Chu Ran's sake, not for Zhang Beixian's. With a somber resolve, Linghu Qiang began to lower himself. His chibi form screamed in pure terror at the impending humiliation, sweating profusely. In distress, Linghu Qiang protectively held Xiao Chu Ran's arm, warning an unseen party not to come any closer. Internally, Linghu Qiang worried that such a public humiliation would inevitably compromise his survival as a villain. His chibi form coughed, bewildered, as a chibi Xiao Chu Ran angrily demanded what he took her for. The chibi protagonist grimaced, clutching his stomach and declaring an urgent need to use the bathroom. Waving goodbye, the chibi protagonist comically fled the scene, leaving a surprised Xiao Chu Ran behind, as the system announced the completion of Chapter 2 and prepared for reward settlement. Linghu Qiang's chibi form looked surprised and relieved, questioning if he had truly survived. Both Xiao Chu Ran and Mao Qiue looked on, equally surprised by the turn of events. A swirling vortex of bright, pink-purple energy consumed the view, signifying a transition. Linghu Qiang's intense eyes, partially obscured by a dark, mask-like shadow, seemed to bore through the swirling purple. His silhouette drifted through a vast, dark cosmic void, drawn towards a brilliant light at the center of a swirling galaxy. Linghu Qiang lay in exhausted slumber, tears and sweat streaking his face. His eyes snapped open in distress as the system's glowing presence announced his success and granted him a 3-day break before new tasks. Relaxed in an armchair with a drink, Linghu Qiang inquired about his mission points. The system revealed a meager 100 points, bringing his total to 2,333, leading Linghu Qiang to question the system's stinginess. Linghu Qiang angrily confronted the system, highlighting the humiliation and danger he endured for such paltry rewards, and emphasizing how close he came to dying. The system calmly responded, assuring him that its point calculation rules were complete and fair. As the system explained how performance determined his score, Linghu Qiang pressed for an estimate of how many more tasks he needed to return to his original world. The system informed him that his transmigration occurred because a billboard killed him, and returning home required a special, resurrection item. Hope sparked in Linghu Qiang's chibi eyes, as he eagerly asked how many resurrection items he could afford with his current points. The system's stark reply, that the resurrection item cost 88,888 points and his current total was far from enough, shocked Linghu Qiang into despair. With a cry of frustration, the chibi protagonist angrily threw a pillow, yelling at the system for its dismissive tone. Linghu Qiang's sadness deepened as he calculated that with 100 points per mission and 3 days of rest after each, he would need over 8,000 missions. Overwhelmed by the endless cycle, he cried out in despair, declaring he would rather die. Utterly defeated, Linghu Qiang knelt. The system attempted to console its host, promising future opportunities and increased rewards for good performance. Linghu Qiang wept, tears streaming down his face in heartbreaking despair. Exhausted and resigned, Linghu Qiang collapsed onto his bed, declaring his weariness and that he no longer wanted to be resurrected. The passage of 3 days brought the Linghu family hall to a tense, chaotic state. Linghu Heng felt disoriented, his senses glitching into chaos. A searing pain forced Linghu Heng's eyes shut. A powerful, star-shaped blue light pulsed, cutting through the shadows. A groan escaped him as he clutched his eyes, a wave of distress washing over. Linghu Heng demanded to know why the teleportation service still left him so dizzy, while his family looked on with concern. A sudden shout of, "Ah Heng," jolted him. His second uncle, Linghu Qiang, angrily pointed and declared everyone should witness his state. Linghu Qiang raged that Linghu Heng had been wounded by love and brought to this state, all due to the Su family, leaving the others perplexed. He distressedly wailed about poor Ah Heng while violently shaking Linghu Qiang, who cried out he was about to vomit. The system announced the novel was synchronized and that today, the villain Linghu Heng's body had been claimed, much to Linghu Qiang's surprised realization he was now in an ancient costume drama. He calmly stated the woman his character loved was named Su Huining. Linghu Qiang, in his chibi form, explained the Linghu and Su families had agreed to a marriage alliance, but the Su family abruptly rescinded it for a good-for-nothing, live-in son-in-law, who was none other than the novel's true protagonist. He gasped, clutching his chest at the name, Ning Yi. Linghu Qiang angrily lamented Linghu Heng's devotion had been entirely wasted, while Linghu Qiang remained pensive, now fully immersed in his character's plight. Linghu Qiang then declared they should simply steal the bride, prompting Linghu Tian to furiously suggest they just kill that idiot boy Ning Yi. Linghu Qiang shouted for Linghu Gang to control his son, who then scoffed, chastising his boy for suggesting killing instead of the more refined dealing with him. Their families had been close for generations, Linghu Feng mused, recalling how his son and the Su family girl were childhood sweethearts, and their marriage alliance had been meant for joy. Linghu Gang sighed, questioning his elder brother's sentimentality given the Su family broke the agreement first, reminding him that one could never force a melon to be sweet. With a determined fury, Linghu Feng declared that since the Su family did not value their relationship, the Linghu family would sever all ties, effective immediately. Linghu Qiang's mind reeled, he couldn't believe what his character's father had just declared. Linghu Tian erupted in disbelief, shouting how easily his uncle spoke of breaking ties when the Su family was destined to dominate the Tianshan kingdom's business, and Linghu Qiang added that Ning Yi's future influence would make all merchants grovel. Linghu Gang sharply retorted that breaking off relations wouldn't punish the Su family, only exposing their ignorance, while Linghu Qiang, in his chibi thoughts, sarcastically wondered if it was just his first love getting married to someone else. Linghu Feng tried to downplay the severity, saying it was just a breakup, while Linghu Qiang, in his thoughts, reflected that Ning Yi was actually a good guy, and perhaps their family had pushed him to become an antagonist. As his uncles jumped in surprise, Linghu Qiang's chibi form realized that if they continued this path, they would become the villains, only to remember they already were. Linghu Feng suddenly felt a strange unease, as if he had just overheard a terrible, unspoken secret. Linghu Qiang abruptly suggested they all sit down, drawing wide, surprised stares from Linghu Tian and his father. Linghu Qiang and his father quickly agreed, urging everyone to sit and discuss the matter calmly. Linghu Tian's mind reeled, utterly bewildered by the sudden shift in atmosphere. Linghu Qiang hesitantly wondered if they should truly forget it all, while his father dismissed the childhood sweethearts narrative as merely an arranged marriage in disguise, not true love. Linghu Qiang declared with a wide, confident smile that they should be the bigger people and wished the couple a happy marriage. Linghu Tian, concerned, asked if his cousin was truly sincere, urging him not to force a smile or pretend to be strong when no outsiders were present. With an emphatic, broad smile, Linghu Qiang insisted he was sincere, declaring he didn't need to pretend because he inherently was strong. Then, with a scoff, Linghu Qiang abruptly dismissed everyone, instructing them to wash up and go to bed since it was getting late. Linghu Qiang, in his chibi thoughts, plotted to settle things quickly before more mistakes were made and then make a run for it, while Linghu Tian pondered if his cousin had seemed different just now. Linghu Tian's eyes widened in shock as a terrifying realization dawned. They had just heard Linghu Hang's inner voice. Flustered, Linghu Qiang quickly denied anything, declaring the meeting dismissed and silently resolving that heaven's secrets could not yet be revealed. Back in Linghu Hang's bedroom, his father worried intensely, wondering if his son was possessed, because they could hear his every inner thought. Linghu Qiang finally felt he could rest, sinking into the bed with a relieved smile. But a strange feeling stirred within him, and he narrowed his eyes, sensing something was amiss. He stood up, placing a hand on his chin, utterly puzzled why the system was so unusually quiet, having not chattered away as it normally did after syncing the plot. He cupped his hand to his mouth, calling out anxiously, "Moshi Moshi. System. Mr. System." Only a profound, unbroken silence answered. His suspicion grew, a persistent feeling nagging him that something was still not quite right. Qin Ye's sharp voice cut through the morning, reminding someone that their teacher had been waiting for a long time in the study. Linghu Tian's wife, Qin Ye, scoffed at the idea of studying, dismissing it as a pursuit only for those without inherent status or privilege. Linghu Tian himself, confident in his inherited status as the Linghu family's second young master, saw no reason to waste his time with books. Qin Ye tried to reason with Linghu Tian, urging him to study the wisdom of the sages to avoid becoming a laughingstock. Linghu Tian dismissed her arguments, adamantly refusing to study, to which Qin Ye retorted with a dire warning about a future spent begging. Qin Ye called out to Linghu Tian, her frustration evident as he walked away. Elsewhere, Linghu Qiang rested soundly, oblivious to the drama unfolding in the mansion. A frantic knocking and shouting pierced Linghu Qiang's sleep, forcing him to stir from his dreams. Linghu Qiang, thoroughly annoyed, demanded to know if his visitor had any basic morality, likening the disturbance to desecrating an ancestral grave. Linghu Tian quickly retorted, reminding his cousin that they shared the same ancestors anyway. Linghu Tian, exasperated, then revealed that Linghu Qiang had become the complete laughingstock of Sangzhou, wondering how he could possibly sleep. Linghu Qiang, now sprawled on the floor, could only manage a surprised whisper. Linghu Tian launched into a detailed account of the vile rumors, describing him as trash discarded by the Su family, ugly, and unhygienic. Linghu Qiang listened, a deep concern etched across his face as he absorbed every word. Linghu Tian stressed the unique tragedy of the original Linghu Hang, a handsome young master disregarded by his parents, destined for a miserable end after the family's collapse. Linghu Tian recounted the truly horrifying end that awaited the original Linghu Hang, stripped, drowned in excrement, his mouth full of it, making him gag. Linghu Qiang processed this gruesome prognosis, a cold sweat breaking out on his chibi form as he stared intently at the implications. The raw indifference of the world to such a fate, even cheering it on, sent shivers down Linghu Qiang's spine, a truly tragic and unsalvageable end for the former villain. Despite the horrific vision, Linghu Qiang feigned nonchalance, dismissing Linghu Tian to go have fun while he intended to return to sleep. Linghu Tian exploded, declaring his new, furious resolve: he would study until his books fell apart. Linghu Qiang could only stare in chibi confusion as Linghu Tian loudly proclaimed his sudden, intense dedication to studying and excelling in the imperial exams. Linghu Tian's impassioned vision of scholars bowing in awe only deepened Linghu Qiang's bewilderment, making him wonder if his cousin had lost his mind. Above, the sky unfolded in a serene, pastel dream. Back in his room, Linghu Qiang found the system's prolonged silence deeply unsettling, still without any new task instructions. He worried the system's unresponsiveness would leave him vulnerable to random death, or worse, penalized for inaction. Deciding to stick to the original novel's plot, Linghu Qiang was interrupted by a servant announcing an invitation from the Su family. Linghu Qiang inquired about the invitation, learning that a young lady from the Su family had personally delivered it, inviting him to dinner at Zuaxian restaurant. The servant relayed his master's offer to dismiss the guest, but Linghu Qiang pondered the unexpected visitor's identity, knowing it wasn't the usual Su whining. Linghu Qiang, dismissing the servant's ignorance, decided to go himself, quickly making his way to the Linghu mansion gates. With a determined stride, Linghu Qiang set off. As Linghu Qiang approached, he spotted an elegant woman, realizing this was definitely not Su whining, and wondered who she could be. Linghu Qiang tidied his robes and cleared his throat, formally acknowledging the invitation to Zuixinlu. The mysterious woman turned slightly. She then spoke, her voice soft as she addressed him. Linghu Qiang's eyes widened, a sound of awe escaping him as he involuntarily drew in a breath. This was Xiao Chu Ran, elegant and confident, appearing as if a vision from a painting. But the graceful facade broke as Xiao Chu Ran's expression shifted to utter shock, questioning Linghu Qiang's very presence, leaving him equally stunned. Linghu Hang's carefully constructed composure shattered the moment he saw her, his voice catching in disbelief. Mao Qiue wondered why he was so nervous, but Linghu Hang secretly believed she was feigning ignorance, sensing something truly strange was afoot. He vocalized his desperate hope that she was merely delivering an invitation to dinner, yet his mind raced, questioning if such an impossibility could truly be happening. She confirmed her purpose, then slyly pressed him on his outburst, forcing Linghu Hang to dismiss his surprise as if their previous encounters were common knowledge. With a knowing smile, Mao Qiue declared she would humor his act, signaling her deeper understanding. A nervous laugh escaped Linghu Hang as he vaguely described his feelings, while internally lamenting how drastically their relationship had warped since their last encounter. Linghu Hang attempted to feign casual coincidence, echoing her earlier question as if he was the one surprised by her presence. Mao Qiue then complimented his green robes, pointedly comparing them to a specific black and gold outfit he wore previously, sending a jolt of alarm through him. A cold sweat broke over Linghu Hang as the horrifying truth dawned on him. This was indeed Mao Qiue, and she remembered the specific clothes he wore from a previous novel. Linghu Hang trembled uncontrollably, his mind screaming for the unresponsive system to appear. He reeled, trying to understand how the heroine of The Crazy Son-in-Law of the Four Seas Dragon King was now in this story, as Mao Qiue angrily scoffed at his attempts to pretend. Mao Qiue's voice sharpened, demanding if he was truly upset about not marrying his childhood sweetheart, Su Huining. Her words struck Linghu Hang like a physical blow, leaving him gasping in profound shock. Distraught, Linghu Hang lunged forward, silencing her with a hand over her mouth and frantically promising to explain everything if she would just lower her voice. He pulled her swiftly, urging her to stop talking and demanding they move inside his courtyard to avoid any further public revelations. Even with his hand muffling her words, Mao Qiue's muffled voice carried a sarcastic bite, questioning if he truly intended to sneak her into his own house. Mao Qiue yelped a protest, ordering him to be gentle, as Linghu Hang continued to pull her, unknowingly drawing the surprised gaze of a passing woman. Linghu Hang's parents, Linghu Feng and Wang Jie, stood utterly bewildered by the commotion. Linghu Hang's father wondered if he was hallucinating, but his mother wryly confirmed that if he saw their son pulling Su family's cousin Mao Qiue into the courtyard, then they both witnessed the same shocking event. Linghu Hang's father, still reeling, demanded to know when his son had become involved with Su Huining's cousin. His mother, equally exasperated, retorted that she had only just learned of the situation herself. Linghu Hang's father fumed, finding his son's intimate public display outrageous, but his mother cautioned restraint, fearing for Miss Mao's reputation if they were to interrupt her. Troubled, Linghu Hang's father asked his wife for a solution. His mother advised waiting until Miss Mao had left before discussing anything, to protect her honor. Suddenly, Linghu Tian's wife, Qin Yeye, rushed into the courtyard, dramatically announcing that something major had occurred. Qin Yeye frantically urged them to check on Tian'er, explaining his sudden, uncharacteristic desire to study for the imperial exam, fearing he might have hit his head. Linghu Hang's mother could only laugh in utter disbelief at the idea of Tian'er wanting to study. Inside Linghu Tian's room, he awkwardly began to recite from a scroll. He struggled to recall the classic text, his memory failing him despite his conviction that he had known it just moments before. A frustrated voice finished the quote, scolding him for not even knowing the word virtue. Linghu Qiang's concubine, Xiao Taohong, chuckled cynically, questioning if the good-for-nothing Tian'er could ever learn anything. A cold sweat broke over Xiao Taohong's brow, a sudden apprehension gripping her. Xiao Taohong internally dismissed Linghu Tian's efforts as a mere ploy to scam money for drinking, relieved that the good-for-nothing hadn't actually grown a brain. Inside his room, Linghu Hang urgently questioned Mao Qiue about her inexplicable transformation into Su Huining's cousin. Mao Qiue explained her own confusing transition, a flash of white light at a banquet, then waking up at Su Huining and Ning Yi's wedding, inexplicably in the role of a cousin. Linghu Hang shivered, processing the utterly abstract and chaotic situation. A character from a previous novel had followed him into this new one with an official identity, all while his system remained unresponsive. Mao Qiue then turned the tables, accusing Linghu Hang of still pursuing Su Huining, given he had gone to such lengths for her family's invitation. A frustrated Linghu Hang defiantly declared he wasn't crazy enough to try to steal anyone, especially not the protagonist's love, knowing such an action was a death wish. Mao Qiue shrewdly pointed out his changed attitude compared to the previous novel, internally recalling how he once cursed Zhang Beixian while still flirting with Xiao Chern. A profound and terrifying realization struck Linghu Hang, his eyes widening in pure shock. Still reeling, Linghu Hang stammered, demanding clarification on her mention of a previous novel. Linghu Hang's mind raced, wondering if she too was aware of her existence as a character within a novel. Mao Qiue confirmed his deepest fear, stating plainly that she could hear his every thought. Linghu Hang, utterly distressed, demanded to know the true meaning of her unsettling statement. A mischievous smile played on Mao Chiyue's lips, savoring his shock. Then, in a playful yet devastating admission, Mao Chiyue declared she could hear every single one of his secret thoughts and complaints. Linghu Hang's mind reeled, desperately trying to convince himself that Mao Chiyue's unsettling revelations were nothing more than nonsense. Yet Mao Chiyue only smiled, a soft expression that hinted at her full awareness of his internal struggle. She asserted her truth playfully, a wide smile confirming his deepest fears. Linghu Hang found himself entirely captivated, his heart fluttering as he mentally praised her dazzling smile, even as his breath hitched. Mao Chiyue pressed him further, her questions dripping with playful challenge, daring him to articulate his desires beyond a simple smile. The realization hit Linghu Hang again with a jolt of exasperation. She had heard his every thought. He raged internally, convinced her ability to hear his thoughts was a female lead cheat caused by the trash system's glaring plot holes. Mao Chiyue, however, merely dismissed his internal turmoil, deciding to let him stew in his own confusion. Breaking his reverie, Mao Chiyue challenged his inattention, wondering why he had brought her there only to ignore her. He urgently commanded her to stop, a desperate plea to halt her relentless advance. "Stop," she echoed, then turned the tables, recalling his past admiration at the Tan family hotel, leaving him utterly flustered. He fidgeted nervously, his hands betraying his growing discomfort. Mao Chiyue's hand found his waist, her voice a soft murmur of his name. Leaning in, she cupped his face and asked, provocatively, if he had known her desirability just by sight. Her face hovered inches from his, the unfinished question hanging heavy in the air, laden with implication. "Want a taste?" she whispered, her smirk a challenge. His hand found its way to her lower back, a firm, possessive grasp. She clarified her true nature, stating that while her name was Linghu Hang, she was merely fulfilling a role in a previous book, far from his little boyfriend from a sweet campus romance. A subtle, knowing smile played on her lips. She scoffed at the idea of caring for any blind man who dared to break up with her. She pressed closer, asserting that only their present interaction mattered, then challenged him, "Do you know what this is called?" Flushed and bewildered, Linghu Hang could only stammer a confused question. Who could possibly resist this, he thought, his resolve crumbling under her seductive presence. In a panic, he clutched her arm, his mind screaming about their R-rated predicament as they tumbled from the chair together. Linghu Hang found himself sprawled on the floor, Mao Chiyue now leaning playfully over him. "Or," she declared, her voice a confident purr, "it could be called you are the mountain, and I am the clouds and rain." He stuttered a nervous warning, invoking the saying that those who play with fire inevitably get burned. She countered his warning, turning it back on him with a playful threat, asserting her control as she held his chin. "Suffer," she retorted, grabbing his hand, "you should worry about yourself." He internally rationalized his increasingly intimate situation, convincing himself that since Mao Chiyue was merely a passerby and the protagonist Ning Yi had no harem, their interaction should be harmless. Mao Chiyue mocked his internal dirty trash, playfully accusing him of innocence despite his thoughts, then hinted at his body's reaction to her touch. His hands tightened around her waist, a sudden, firm grip. Shirtless and dominant, Linghu Hang smirked, declaring she had brought this moment upon herself. Mao Chiyue's eyes fluttered closed, a silent testament to the intensity of the moment. Flustered and vulnerable, Mao Chiyue challenged him, asking if he truly intended to make his forbidden thoughts a reality. Linghu Hang declared his intent to show her the true meaning of doing whatever he wanted, the unity of knowledge and action. Mao Chiyue let out a soft, overwhelmed sound. Her eyes closed, Mao Chiyue challenged him to prove his words, a playful invitation to fulfill his promise. The quiet of the room was filled only by soft, rhythmic breathing. Mao Chiyue stirred, casually wondering about the time, while Linghu Hang grimaced, mentally cursing her for his discomfort. A confident smile touched Mao Chiyue's lips as she reminded him it was time for their reservation at Zuaxian restaurant. She pulled on her clothes, urging him to hurry as everyone else would be waiting. Linghu Hang groaned, his body bearing the unmistakable marks of the previous night's passion. He thought of the male protagonist, his own body protesting with weak legs and a scratched back, desperate to stay in bed. Mao Chiyue's playful threat of a repeat performance sent a jolt through him, and Linghu Hang instantly declared he would get up. Arriving at the Zuaxian restaurant, a staff member informed them the Su family had just arrived and were waiting in the Yuhuchan room. The wooden doors slowly creaked open. Inside, two elegant women waited at a heavy wooden table. Su Huining's expression held a complex mix of emotions as she softly uttered Linghu Hang's name. Both Linghu Hang and Mao Chiyue reacted with a startled gasp. Su Huining's inner thoughts, however, were a comical panic about being a married woman and the terrifying prospect of her husband suspecting an affair. His father Linghu Feng, his mother Wang Jie, and old master Su were also present. Su Huining's parents, looking concerned, stood nearby. And there was Su Huining herself, seated at the table. Linghu Hang apologized for their tardiness, silently observing the grand setup and the unexpected presence of his own parents. His father, Linghu Feng, promptly scolded him for standing idly after being late, urging him to sit down. Then, a man intervened, playfully telling Uncle Linghu there was no need to be harsh, as it was merely a family dinner. A foot stepped forward. This was the male protagonist, Ning Yi, standing confidently before them. Linghu Hang's eyes widened in utter shock, recognizing Ning Yi as the formidable figure destined to revolutionize the Sangzhou business world. Ning Yi was the sole survivor of his family, whose prosperous mansion had burned to the ground in a great fire 2 decades prior. As an adult, Old Master Su found him, arranging his marriage to Su Huining, making him the son-in-law of the powerful Su family. Ning Yi extended his hand, formally introducing himself and accurately identifying Linghu Hang as the Linghu family's eldest young master. Ning Yi then remarked on the unparalleled bond between Linghu Hang and Ah Ning since childhood, expressing regret they hadn't met at the wedding. Linghu Hang's eye widened with a profound shock. Linghu Hang nervously laughed off the comment, his mind reeling with the realization that Ning Yi was also a fellow transmigrator from the modern era, just like him. He pondered intensely, wondering which version of the modern world this formidable man had originally come from. Ning Yi explained the dinner was arranged to dispel any town speculation or Linghu Hang's potential misconceptions regarding his marriage to Ah Ning and the Su family. Linghu Hang's mind raced, confirming his suspicion that the banquet was a deliberate test, far from a simple family meal. He concluded Ning Yi sought to uncover his true feelings for Su Huining and any Linghu family grudges, deciding that feigning absolute submission was the only sensible path. He erupted into a booming, forced laugh. Linghu Hang vehemently denied any misconceptions, launching into exaggerated praise for Ning Yi and Su Huining as a truly perfect, talented, and beautiful couple. He put a hand on Ning Yi's shoulder, offering a fabricated excuse about an upset stomach for missing the wedding and scoffing at the notion that childhood sweethearts must marry. Linghu Hang then declared his bond with Miss Su was, at most, a 24-carat pure friendship, attempting to make his sincerity undeniable. A sudden, intense shock registered in Linghu Hang's eye, sweat beating at his temple. He abruptly sat up, trembling with a sudden, profound realization. Linghu Hang's face twisted in despair as he questioned if he had been the fool all along. Chibi Linghu Hang shed copious tears as Ning Yi beamed, prompting the protagonist to exclaim in realization that he had become the sister. Su Huining, utterly confused, asked her cousin for clarification, only to receive a cryptic reply that some things simply could not be said. Ning Yi firmly grasped Linghu Hang's hand. Apologizing to the others, Ning Yi announced that he and brother Linghu had private matters to discuss, then promptly dragged a distressed Linghu Hang out of the room. The remaining adults at the table looked on, baffled and surprised by the abrupt departure. The Zuaxian restaurant's elegant courtyard provided a serene backdrop. Water gently cascaded into the tranquil lotus pond. An awkward proximity marked the unusual meeting. Only after becoming a ghost did Linghu Hang realize the profound injustice of his death, a Harvard graduate robbed and stabbed over a midnight snack. The protagonist rummaged the ground, his own past pain echoing in Linghu Hang's words. Just like Linghu Hang, he had been killed on the cusp of something new, crushed by a billboard right before his first date with an online girlfriend. Linghu Hang, now an orphaned son-in-law, asked Linghu Qiang about his new life, only for the protagonist to reveal his fate as a system-bound, heaven-chosen villain in a novel. Linghu Hang found the situation cool, believing knowledge of the novel's plot offered a perfect walk-through guide, but Linghu Qiang remained unconvinced. The walk-through, Linghu Qiang explained, ended with Linghu Hang wiping out the entire Linghu family, leaving him next in line to die. A heavy silence settled between them as the plot's dark implications sank in. Linghu Qiang, panicked by the silence, asked if Linghu Hang truly intended to kill him, startling the other man. Linghu Qiang needed Linghu Hang for a golden finger advantage, yet feared his own villainous role would collapse if he didn't cause trouble, jeopardizing his transmigration. He realized his system's malfunction might be directly linked to his failure to embody his villain transmigration theme. Linghu Hang then suggested a radical possibility, perhaps the true villain in this story was someone else entirely. Both men, now in chibi form, pondered their absurd, transmigration predicaments. Back in the private dining room, Mao Chiyue grew impatient, wondering what kept the two men talking for so long. Deciding she had waited long enough, Mao Chiyue declared she would go check on them herself. She headed towards the courtyard, where Linghu Qiang still sat looking distressed. Mao Chiyue observed Linghu Qiang, her suspicions confirmed, a dispute had clearly taken place. Suddenly, Linghu Hang moved to block her advance. Mao Chiyue angrily demanded Linghu Hang's intentions as he stood firm, blocking her path, leaving Linghu Qiang utterly confused. Linghu Hang provocatively dismissed past marriage talks as mere idle chatter, then, with an arm around Mao Chiyue, asked why she kept pestering him now that he was married to Ning Yi. He then feigned distress, insisting that, Brother Linghu, and he had simply been having a wonderful, platonic chat, and that the protagonist held absolutely no romantic feelings for her. Linghu Qiang, visibly sweating and awkward, forced a smile and agreed it was all a big misunderstanding. Mao Qiue, however, remained suspicious, pointing out their brief acquaintance before directly accusing Linghu Hang of threatening the protagonist. Linghu Hang, flustered and sweating, quickly and emphatically denied any threats. Linghu Qiang, with a dramatic oath gesture, swore that Linghu Hang of Sangzhou had always viewed Miss Su as a sister, invoking a curse of a lonely and terrible death if he lied. Internally, Linghu Qiang rationalized that the original Linghu Hang's feelings for Su Huining were irrelevant, and the oath he just swore applied only to his transmigrated self. Mao Qiue's single word, really, was laced with potent skepticism. Linghu Qiang emphatically reiterated that the elder's casual engagement talks were never serious, adding that he was genuinely happy she had found a good husband. A sudden epiphany struck Linghu Hang as he caught onto the protagonist's clever ruse. Linghu Qiang, with a sly smile and an arm around an uncomfortable Linghu Hang, claimed he had just been privately advising Ning Yi to treat her well. Linghu Hang loudly agreed, erupting into a boisterous, sweat-beaded laugh to sell the lie. Both men joined in a chorus of forced, awkward laughter, much to Mao Qiue's bewildered annoyance. Convinced the matter was settled, Linghu Hang gently pushed Mao Qiue, urging them to return to the feast. Linghu Qiang cast a suspicious glance at Linghu Hang's mischievous wink and Mao Qiue's lingering pout. A profound wave of relief washed over Linghu Qiang. He had secured an alliance with the big shot, and for now, his immediate death seemed averted. The awkward tension hung heavy in the room, prompting an older man to suggest they simply drink and eat. Then, a startled exclamation echoed from behind the closed doors. Mao Qiue, Linghu Qiang, and Linghu Hang walked together, each lost in their own thoughts. An older man, Grandpa Gu, rose purposefully, announcing he had something important to say to Linghu Hang. Linghu Hang's father, Linghu Feng, voiced his concern, wondering if the tension outside had finally erupted into a fight. Amidst the rising tension, one of the guests calmly reached for his cup. The Su family patriarch lamented his children's incapacity, forcing him to burden Huining, while another man slyly recalled his past desire for her to marry Linghu Hang, a union deemed impossible due to their differing statuses. His subtle smile betrayed a deeper, unspoken agenda. He confidently asserted Huining's capabilities, declaring that the Su family's future rested on her shoulders, and hinted at an inevitable alliance between their houses. Su Huining, distressed, felt the silent gaze of another woman. Su Huining offered a sly, knowing wink. Internally, Su Huining reacted with a flustered surprise. Linghu Hang's father remarked on the wisdom that came with age, causing Linghu Hang to break out in an internal sweat. Linghu Hang's third uncle, Linghu Gang, burst into laughter, marveling at the sudden transformation of a man who had so vehemently cursed the Su family just the night before. In the grand hall, an older man spoke with deliberate gestures. Zhang Beixian and a woman walked with a shared, serious demeanor. An older man heartily declared his enjoyment of the meal, concluding the feast with boisterous laughter. Linghu Tian watched with concern as Zhang Beixian tersely instructed someone to slow their pace. Zhang Beixian, with a sly wink, promised to meet in a few days to discuss their next steps, and Linghu Tian agreed, his frustration barely audible in a whispered assent. The figures walked away, leaving the courtyard behind. An elegant woman offered a sly wink as a hand was quickly pulled away from her grasp. Our hero, Linghu Qiang, cringed with embarrassment, urging discretion as his parents were right there, while his mother seethed with anger. Linghu Qiang's mother angrily commanded him into the carriage, twisting his ear as he cried out in pain and confusion. Inside, two figures sat in serene contemplation. One of them made a quick, telling glance. Linghu Hang's father, Linghu Feng, and his third uncle, Linghu Gang, turned to Linghu Hang for guidance, asking if he could enlighten them on the bizarre turn of events. Linghu Hang's mother slapped him on the head, dismissing his father's words as lingering theatrics from old Master Su's prolonged act. Linghu Gang wryly questioned her rough treatment of their master, but Linghu Hang's mother angrily retorted that he was nothing more than her son. Linghu Hang's father claimed understanding, while Linghu Gang pointedly asked if certain heavenly secrets should remain unrevealed. Indeed, Linghu Hang's father concluded, the performance was still very much ongoing, causing him an internal sweat. Back in his room, Linghu Hang, distressed, frantically called out to the system, demanding it answer his thrice-repeated summons. He worried the plot had veered off course, terrified that without the system's guidance, he was driving blind and something terrible would inevitably go wrong. Suddenly, the cries of a newborn baby echoed through the night, followed by the joyous announcement of the princess's birth. Linghu Hang had a sudden, crucial realization: his third uncle's wife, Princess Qinyang, was due to give birth exactly at this point in the story. He lay in his bed, seemingly asleep. But then, a sudden realization struck him, and he bolted upright, cursing under his breath. He recalled the tragic plot point: the baby girl was meant to be strangled by the midwife, leading Princess Qianyang to believe she died from difficult labor, ultimately causing her heartbreak, illness, and replacement by a concubine. The baby girl was born, he realized, meaning she was only moments away from being strangled. The baby's death would trigger a devastating chain of events, causing Princess Qianyang and her uncle to crumble, igniting conflict with the royal family, and ultimately accelerating the Linghu family's downfall. He gritted his teeth, resolute that this child absolutely could not die. Looking left and right, he sprinted, a wave of relief washing over him that he was not yet too late. The tiny baby slept peacefully, cradled innocently in someone's hands. The midwife's face contorted in a sinister glare, her intent chillingly clear as she vowed to strangle the unlucky thing later. Linghu Hang's senses sharpened, every fiber of his being reacting to the palpable threat. The midwife spun around, startled, demanding to know who was there. A swift kick. The midwife flew backward, stunned, as the baby was launched into the air. Linghu Hang moved, hands reaching to catch the falling infant. A wave of relief washed over Linghu Hang as he safely cradled the sleeping baby. Holding the child, Linghu Hang angrily confronted the midwife, demanding to know her purpose for sneaking away with a baby so late at night. In the third uncle's courtyard, an older woman expressed her utter disbelief, certain that a cynical and undisciplined young master like Linghu Hang could know nothing about caring for a child. She tried to take the bundled infant from Linghu Hang, worried he might harm it, but he held firm. Linghu Hang, however, questioned her intentions, a flicker of suspicion in his eyes. The old servant then feigned concern, slyly suggesting the baby was a bad omen that wouldn't survive, warning against its supposed ill luck affecting him. Her true, malevolent thoughts, however, wished for the child to die in Linghu Hang's hands, absolving her of blame. Linghu Hang, refusing to yield, insisted he was the child's elder brother and would stay with it, even if it had stopped breathing. He firmly gripped the infant's arm. With desperate force, Linghu Hang shook the baby's tiny limb, imploring it to cry. Recalling medical dramas, he held the baby upside down, shaking it with determined confusion. The old woman reacted with an almost comical shock, convinced he was crazier than she was. Muttering that any death would be his fault, she fled in surprise, leaving a bewildered Linghu Hang behind. He held the baby, pondering the strange encounter. Then, he gently flicked the baby's foot. The baby stirred, letting out a soft sound. Linghu Hang, overjoyed and excited, celebrated that his mother's medical dramas had finally proved useful. The story then shifted to Princess Qianyang's delivery room. As Linghu Hang approached, maids hurried away in surprise. One maid tried to stop him, declaring the private chamber was no place for him. Linghu Hang, holding the infant, asserted he was bringing the child to its mother. The maids were outraged, believing the child was dead and accusing Linghu Hang of insensitivity. He closed his eyes, a wave of quiet frustration washing over him. Forcefully, Linghu Hang told the maid to move, pushing past her with the baby. He approached Princess Qianyang, who sat in sorrow. The older man confronted Linghu Hang, questioning his sudden appearance. Princess Qianyang tentatively reached out for the baby. She cradled the bundled infant, still lost in grief. The older man tried to comfort her, heartlessly suggesting they could simply have another child later. But Linghu Hang interjected, challenging their assumption that the child was truly gone. The older man angrily accused Linghu Hang of further upsetting Princess Qianyang. Princess Qianyang, tearful and confused, questioned Linghu Hang, asking what he meant. In a burst of frustrated anger, chibi Linghu Hang berated her for blindly believing an unknown midwife, declaring motherhood had robbed her of common sense. The older man stood stunned by the outburst. Linghu Hang dramatically pulled back the blanket covering the baby. The baby stirred and made a sound, proving it was alive and well, prompting Princess Qianyang's joyful exclamation. Princess Qianyang cried out in joyous disbelief, trying to show her husband their living child. The older man, disbelieving, dismissed it as a hallucination brought on by her grief, clinging to the midwife's earlier pronouncement. Princess Qianyang, however, questioned the midwife's false report, insisting her child was very much alive. A tear rolled down her cheek as her suspicion solidified, declaring the midwife was suspicious. Linghu Hang, observing the scene, felt a quiet triumph, there was still hope. The older man suddenly reached out, startling Princess Qianyang. Princess Qianyang forcefully pushed his hand away. With furious accusation, Princess Qianyang castigated her husband, calling him easily fooled and ordering him to leave. The older man was left speechless by her wrath. Linghu Hang watched the older man's angry, surprised reaction with smug satisfaction. The older man relented, promising to return the next morning after she had rested. He left, cursing his bad luck and questioning the midwife's competence. Meanwhile, Linghu Gang observed from a distance. In Linghu Gang's study, a brush moved across paper. A handwritten note detailed how Linghu Hang's interference had thwarted the original plan, making Chen Yang wary. Linghu Qiang prepared to send a new message. He released the pigeon into the dark night. The bird soared through the sky. It landed softly on a windowsill. Linghu Qiang retrieved the message from the pigeon's leg. A hooded figure, reading the note, declared that they would have to devise a new plan. Linghu Qiang declared the child was fine and he would head back first, which left Xiao Taohong utterly stunned. He paused, glancing back at her with lingering concern. Then, his gaze shifted. Xiao Taohong clasped her hands tightly, holding on to her composure. He finally walked away, leaving the room behind. His steps clicked softly on the floor. Linghu Qiang peered into the room, wondering aloud who was so motivated. It was Linghu Qiang. Xiao Taohong observed from a distance. Xiao Taohong, the second uncle's concubine, entered with a bowl of clam and mushroom soup, inviting Tianer to try it. Linghu Qiang politely refused, telling his auntie to leave it for now as he would eat after finishing his work. Xiao Taohong, undeterred, ordered someone to clear the table and place cakes on it immediately. Linghu Qiang reacted with a frustrated shout, trying to stop her. The protagonist watched the scene intently, a serious expression on his face. He mused that spoiling a child was like killing him, and this woman seemed determined to raise Linghu Qiang into a useless bum who only knew how to eat, drink, and play. Linghu Qiang, confused, looked around, wondering where his amazing cousin had gone after giving instructions. Linghu Qiang, observing, began to suspect Xiao Taohong's kindness had always been part of this manipulative intention. He knew Linghu Qiang must be incredibly moved by her feigned concern. Xiao Taohong pointed out Linghu Qiang's red eyes from staying up late, while Linghu Qiang advised him to stop for his health. Linghu Qiang, in his chibi form, recoiled in disgust from the fakery, wishing only to return to his room and sleep. Linghu Qiang listened calmly, his eyes closed in thought. He then asked Xiao Taohong if she understood why he had suddenly become so diligent. Xiao Taohong, curious, eagerly asked him to tell his story, while a chibi Linghu Qiang slyly watched. Linghu Qiang revealed a terrifying dream. An immortal warned him that he would be his father's only son, and that following her advice would lead him to squander the family fortune and sell her into a brothel. Xiao Taohong reacted with wide-eyed shock and distress, asking if such a dream could possibly be real. Linghu Qiang quickly clarified that he was merely concerned for her health, and a relieved Xiao Taohong accepted his explanation. A blush spread across Xiao Taohong's face as she let out a sigh of relief. An angry Xiao Taohong swiftly ordered Chunlan to pack up and leave, leaving Linghu Qiang utterly confused. She glared fiercely, her frustration palpable. The protagonist excitedly asked Linghu Qiang how he had performed, startling his cousin. Linghu Qiang praised his brother's growth, leaving Linghu Qiang to wonder how he even knew he was there. Before days later, the scene shifted. He suddenly stared in surprise at a glowing screen. Linghu Qiang ecstatically called out to the system, which finally responded. He expressed his frustration to the system about Ning Yi's adherence to the plot, establishing modern clothing stores, and making them flourish, yet he felt something was fundamentally wrong. Linghu Qiang mused that while he, the villain, was insignificant in the early plot, the system being offline and an unidentified villain lurking made it hard not to panic. A hooded figure loomed and called out his name, startling Linghu Qiang. The figure revealed herself as Princess Chenyang, his third auntie, leaving Linghu Qiang surprised by her disguised appearance. Princess Chenyang knelt, explaining that she and Nan Nan would have been separated that night without his help, compelling her to thank him personally for saving them. Linghu Qiang gently reminded her they were family, yet secretly admired her beauty, musing that his third uncle must be blind to ignore such a stunning wife for a mistress. Princess Chenyang's expression hardened with anger and suspicion at the mention of Linghu Qiang having a mistress outside. Linghu Qiang, noticing her trembling, asked with concern if she was all right. Princess Chenyang's thoughts raced, realizing that Linghu Qiang must have long planned to push her and her child out to make way for his mistress, explaining the midwife's attempt to steal her baby. Linghu Qiang worried that if he told her the full truth about Linghu Qiang and his mistress plotting to ruin her health and expel her from the family, she might die of heartbreak. Princess Chenyang declared her firm determination to repay Linghu Qiang for his kindness to her and her child, emphasizing that she was not an ungrateful person. Linghu Qiang, utterly confused by her hasty departure, wondered if he had said something wrong again. The story shifted to Linghu Mansion. Inside, Princess Chenyang stood, poised and elegant. Princess Chenyang turned to Xiao Chui, reminding her of their conversation the previous night. Xiao Chui, resolute, assured her mistress she would keep a close eye on the prince consort and immediately report the whereabouts of his mistress. With a decisive gesture, her headpiece shifted. "Let's go to the imperial palace," Xiao Chui declared. Their journey led them to Changning Hall within the imperial palace. Opulent luxury filled the hall. An attendant praised Princess Chenyang's discerning eye, noting how a fresh peony outshone any hairpin. Her hand gently stroked the bloom. That's natural. Princess Chenyang declared with a confident smile. A court official announced Princess Chenyang's request for an audience. Meanwhile, a crowd gathered outside Su's clothing shop. Linghu Qiang, slyly smiling, declared his intent to gauge Ning Yi's true capabilities. A line of smiling sales associates welcomed him, offering him free choice of any product. He found himself secretly delighted. The real-life impact of the shop far surpassed its novel description, shocking him. 2 sales associates presented a newly released robe, assuring the young master its intricate elegance would perfectly suit his handsome figure. Linghu Qiang, slightly embarrassed, wondered if the color might be a bit too flashy for him. Undeterred, the associates insisted such a handsome young master was perfect for it, urging him to try it on. Linghu Qiang, exasperated, mentally vowed to ask Ning Yi where he found so many sweet and wild individuals. Then, a rustling sound made him exclaim, "Huh!" He spun around, demanding to know who was there. Before he could finish his thought, a cloth enveloped his head. Pulling back the cloth, a surprised Linghu Qiang recognized Xiao Yu, questioning her unexpected presence. Xiao Yu stood before him, seductive and radiant amidst sparkling light. Her hand delicately traced her leg, highlighting a glittering anklet. Seated provocatively, Xiao Yu challenged him, "What do you think?" Linghu Qiang, wiping a bead of sweat, exasperatedly asked what she intended to do now. Xiao Yu chastised him for his neglect, reminding him she had asked him to contact her, yet he hadn't visited her once. With a seductive flair, she placed her foot into his hand, declaring any ensuing consequences to be entirely his fault. Linghu Qiang could only blush, utterly speechless. He then playfully scooped her up into his arms. Their lips met in a passionate kiss. Linghu Qiang playfully asked how she intended to punish him today, to which Xiao Yu slyly countered, "What? Are you scared?" "I'm scared. I'm terrified as hell," he declared, then quickly added, "but in a good way," as she straddled him. Suddenly, a door violently clattered open, and Linghu Gang's voice boomed, "Brother Linghu." Linghu Qiang's eyes widened in mortified shock, while Xiao Yu merely covered her mouth, her amusement evident. He scrambled to adjust his clothes, utterly flustered. Linghu Gang, beaming, grabbed Linghu Qiang's arm, exclaiming he had finally found him and urging him to hurry. Excitedly, Linghu Gang pointed towards a commotion at the door, wondering if Linghu Qiang had invited a troop and noting that someone was causing trouble. Linghu Qiang couldn't believe it, someone was causing trouble on Linghu Gang's own turf, yet his brother was still in the mood to watch the fun. Linghu Qiang, feeling the tension build, questioned if he should truly abandon Ning Yi to go with Su Huaining. Murong Yu, the eldest son of the Murong family, confidently inquired if Sister Huaining was truly angered. His voice dripping with condescension, Murong Yu taunted Su Huaining for refusing his earlier offer, now lamenting her misfortune, married to a good-for-nothing and forced into daily labor. Linghu Qiang, a sly smirk touching his lips, realized Murong Yu's current predicament mirrored his own in unsettling ways. Linghu Qiang privately fumed that Murong Yu was stealing his entire role as a villain in the novel's first half, while Murong Yu himself erupted in fury, threatening violence for daring to insult him and, "Ah Ning. Don't get excited." Linghu Qiang barked, straining to hold Murong Yu back. "You're no match for Su Huaining's true strength." Still seething, Murong Yu snapped back, demanding to know what Su Huaining was, if Ning Yi was a good-for-nothing. Su Huaining met his anger with a disdainful smirk, suggesting he was nothing more than a pouty-mouthed, pot-bellied, clay pot. The humiliation landed, echoing with the sound of phantom laughter. Linghu Qiang observed the brutal humiliation, while Murong Yu, surprisingly, expressed relief it wasn't his trash talk that had caused such an uproar. Murong Yu declared his "Ah Ning" was always the best, prompting Linghu Qiang to groan about his love-addled friends. Murong Yu's anger flared as he confessed his sole motivation for seeking Su Huaining's hand had been the political alliance between their powerful families. A dawning, uncomfortable realization washed over Linghu Qiang. It became clear to Linghu Qiang that the system had silently intervened, correcting fundamental deviations in the original plot. His own arrival, he realized, had shifted the original Linghu Hang's role directly onto Murong Yu, reshaping the very narrative. Murong Yu's voice sharpened, angrily accusing Su Huaining of still playing hard to get, despite her past with Ning. "How dare you?" Murong Yu roared, his fury erupting like wildfire. "Do you think I'm dead?" "Brother Ning, calm down," Linghu Qiang urged, struggling to restrain the fuming man. Linghu Qiang's grip on Murong Yu's arm tightened, a silent warning passing between them. A scream tore from Murong Yu's throat as he was held, a surge of unseen energy coursing through him. "Protect the young master," one man cried, clutching his stomach, as 2 others charged forward, ready to intervene. A wave of shock and concern rippled through the onlookers. An angry voice boomed, demanding to know who dared lay a hand on him. Murong roared back, his own voice laced with menace, threatening to remove the man's useless jaw for daring to touch him. Just you wait, the man warned defiantly as he was forcibly led away, looking back over his shoulder. Linghu Qiang calmly waved the onlookers away, musing to himself that young Master Murong had certainly shot himself in the foot. He realized then how Linghu Hang's foolish actions had truly undermined himself. With the original villain, himself, now allied with Ning Yi, Linghu Qiang worried if Murong had become the next designated antagonist. Or perhaps, he pondered, an entirely different, unseen villain was lurking in the shadows. The thought sent a shiver down his spine, the entire atmosphere suddenly felt profoundly strange. Linghu Qiang paused, observing the street around him. A light touch on his arm startled Linghu Qiang. "When did you get next to me?" Linghu Qiang asked, startled by Xiao Yu's sudden, close proximity. Xiao Yu, ever observant, mused that Ning Yi seemed strange, his modern business ideas and the women's self-defense technique he used on Murong were distinctly out of place. Linghu Qiang questioned her observation, wondering if she had misidentified the self-defense technique. With a sly, teasing smile, Xiao Yu remarked how well her cousin-in-law doted on his wife, pointedly hinting at Linghu Qiang's own shortcomings. Linghu Qiang playfully confessed his guilt, listing his perceived flaws as crude and wild, only knowing how to plow through things. Xiao Yu playfully nudged him with her foot, chiding him to stop with his dirty jokes, though a smile played on her lips. Too lazy to continue the banter, Linghu Qiang announced he was leaving to watch the fun, contemplating that even a fellow transmigrator like Ning Yi was still just a character within the author's story. Even he, a transmigrated outsider, had a defined villainous role and name in the original novel, yet. But Mao Qiue was different, and Linghu Qiang found himself wondering why she had transmigrated to this world. The very fabric of reality twisted, pulling unsuspecting souls into tales far beyond their own, but not without a warning. Half a day later, the grand imperial palace stood serene beneath the midday sun. Linghu Qiang, ever wary, peered discreetly from the shadows, sensing the undercurrents of the day. "No one's here," the man with orange hair blurted, making Linghu Qiang quickly urge them both to move swiftly before they were seen. Other onlookers expressed their confusion at their thieving behavior in broad daylight, prompting Linghu Qiang to sharply silence the orange-haired man. Elsewhere, Wang Jie chuckled with satisfaction, praising her son Linghu Hang for his capability in connecting with the Mao family, even without the Su family's aid. But Linghu Feng, her husband, cautioned her against short-sightedness, explaining the vast political difference between the Mao and Su families, especially General Mao's long-standing support for the second prince. His concern deepened, reminding her of their own family's allegiance to the crown prince and the potential fallout if their son grew too close to the second prince's confidant's granddaughter. Wang Jie confidently dismissed his worries, praising the crown prince's wisdom and arguing that General Mao's past loyalties did not necessarily dictate Mao Qiue's current alignment. Linghu Feng sighed, exasperated by what he perceived as a woman's limited perspective. He quickly changed the subject, revealing the princess was now in good health and planning a full moon celebration for her baby. Linghu Feng then voiced a new worry about his third brother, causing Wang Jie to declare she would not support him if he crossed the princess. Suddenly, an urgent voice broke through the palace's quiet, calling out for Your Highness. Xiao Cui appeared, her expression grave, reporting that she had successfully gathered the requested information. She confirmed Princess Chenyang's deepest suspicions, revealing the prince consort's mistress's residence had been located. Xiao Cui quickly moved to support Princess Chenyang, who was overcome with distress. The princess's hands clenched tight, a physical manifestation of her inner turmoil and burgeoning resolve. Cradling her baby, Princess Chenyang fiercely demanded to hear all the remaining news, asserting her strength to endure it. Xiao Cui regretfully revealed that the prince consort's mistress had also given birth to a daughter on the very same day as the princess's own child, and recounted the mistress's furious tantrum, and the prince consort's subsequent actions to appease her. Princess Chenyang's eyes widened in shocked horror, urgently demanding to know the full extent of his betrayal. Xiao Cui delivered the final, crushing blow. The prince consort had promised his mistress she would become his principal wife, effectively casting aside Princess Chenyang. A bitter, sarcastic laugh tore from Princess Chenyang, tears streaming down her face as she succumbed to heartbroken despair. Anger flared in her eyes as Princess Chenyang realized the prince consort hoped for her death, surmising he would use her presumed grief and illness over their daughter's potential demise to fulfill his wicked wish. The full weight of his profound betrayal settled upon Princess Chenyang, fueling her rage and heartbreak. Holding her peacefully sleeping infant, Princess Chenyang vowed to remember the kindness of Xiao Heng from her uncle's family, who had allowed her to learn the truth and fight for her place instead of foolishly perishing. Linghu Qiang, annoyed by the silence, declared he would leave if the other person did not speak after so slyly pulling him into the room. The orange-haired man then expressed mock disappointment that Linghu Qiang was not propositioning him, as Linghu Qiang reached out to stop him from leaving. Linghu Qiang then slyly admitted he had a question, prompting the orange-haired man to impatiently tell him to just speak his mind. Linghu Qiang asked if the orange-haired man had received any special mission when he transmigrated into this novel. The orange-haired man, irritated, dismissed Linghu Qiang's nonsense, explaining he had merely followed a white light into this world, with no system or plot spoilers. Linghu Qiang grew confused, realizing the story's plot was not at all following the script he expected. He pressed further, questioning why the orange-haired man, and not other female leads like Xiao Churan, had transmigrated into this novel. The orange-haired man angrily accused Linghu Qiang of thinking about another woman, but Linghu Qiang defensively explained his curiosity was purely for understanding the story's characters. Dismissively, the orange-haired man stated he had never met anyone named Xiao Chu. Linghu Qiang observed the orange-haired man's sudden thoughtfulness, asking if he had remembered something. To his own surprise, the orange-haired man suddenly recalled that the current crown prince's biological sister was named Xiao Churan. The majestic palace stood silent once more. A voice from within the court confirmed the princess's report that Linghu Hang from the Linghu family had been her benefactor. The woman in purple robes smirked, surprised by this revelation, and declared her anticipation of meeting Linghu Hang soon. The Linghu manor buzzed with anticipation on the day of the full moon celebration. Inside, guests offered joyful congratulations, their voices mingling in the opulent hall. One woman beamed, proclaiming the day truly joyous, marveling at the sheer number of guests gathered to celebrate the princess. Another inquired of her sister-in-law, a hint of concern in her voice, about the mysterious absence of the third brother, as guests outside were beginning to notice. Princess Chenyang, cradling her sleeping infant, scoffed at the mention of her husband, coldly remarking that she cared little if he lived or died, while the other woman watched with a sly smile, waiting to see how events would unfold. As noon approached, an unseen voice announced the start of the meal, questioning the prince consort's continued absence. Suddenly, the prince consort burst into the room, a wide smile on his face, proclaiming his arrival. Princess Chenyang demanded to know his whereabouts, and he sheepishly explained he had been searching for a treasure for their daughter. She scowled, demanding to know why, if it was his own daughter's celebration, he hadn't prepared a gift in advance. The prince consort quickly reassured her that he had, but finding his initial choices unworthy, he had sought something better at the last minute, opening a small box to reveal his new gift. But Princess Chenyang eyed the simple silver lock with scorn, questioning if he truly considered such an ordinary item worthy of their child. The prince consort, however, condescendingly explained that women had weak fates and a silver lock was more suitable than gold. Princess Chenyang abruptly rose, anger and hurt flashing in her eyes, demanding to know how her daughter could be deemed unworthy of a golden lock, as the empty gift box clattered to the floor. Onlookers watched in stunned silence, surprised by the escalating argument. The prince consort, exasperated, tried to calm her, scolding her for acting crazy and promising to buy a gold lock later. But an unseen voice pierced the air, accusing him of already having purchased a gold lock, suggesting it had been sent to his mistress and her favored daughter, as whispers rippled through the room. The prince consort was struck speechless, cornered and furious. Princess Chenyang, now smug, challenged him directly, making it clear she knew more than he thought. Leaning in close, the woman in red issued a chilling warning, advising him to hide his mistress and her precious daughter well, reminding him of the royal family's potent methods and the hidden dangers around him. The prince consort erupted in a fit of rage, accusing her of rebellion for daring to threaten her own husband, his hand raised in a furious gesture. Before he could act, an abrupt command brought his hand to a halt. A herald's voice cut through the tension, announcing the arrival of the eldest princess. The prince consort's fury instantly turned to shock, bewildered by the unexpected presence of the eldest princess. One man was so startled by the news that he instinctively spat out his drink. Outside, armored guards stood in imposing formation, signaling an important procession. An official imperiously commanded all unrelated personnel to clear the path. A woman in purple robes calmly walked away, seemingly heeding the command. Linghu Qiang, his face etched with worry, desperately hoped the newly arrived princess shared the same name as the character he suspected. He blinked, his eyes wide with a dawning, unwelcome realization. An elegant woman in purple robes smiled, as an unseen voice declared the suspense finally over. The woman in purple, the eldest princess, offered a graceful greeting, fixing her gaze upon Linghu Qiang, who watched her thoughtfully. Onlookers murmured in surprise, questioning how the eldest princess knew the Linghu family's eldest young master and marveled at their apparent connection, while Linghu Qiang privately cursed her appearance, convinced nothing good would follow. He spiraled into an internal panic, wondering if with Mao Qiue and Xiao Churan now present, Zhang Beixian, another protagonist, would soon appear as well. Linghu Qiang frantically seized the transmigrator, desperate to know if anyone named Zhang Beixian existed in this world, to which the system emphatically replied, no. The elegant eldest princess, smiling gently, presented a sparkling gift, explaining it had been passed down from her own mother, and wished the baby eternal happiness. Princess Chenyang was overwhelmed by the precious offering, but the eldest princess insisted she accept it, explaining her immediate fondness for the child. Another man slyly remarked that the little girl had clearly garnered the eldest princess's favor, predicting a very bright future for her. A simple wooden doorway marked a shift in perspective. The prince consort stomped away, seething about Chen Yang's public embarrassment and his daughter's privileged treatment, dreading the power she might wield over him in the future. He defiantly vowed to his mistress and her delicate daughter that he would reclaim all good things for them once he achieved success, as a pigeon took sudden flight. But an unseen force suddenly struck the fleeing pigeon. The pigeon fell lifelessly to the ground before the orange-haired transmigrator. The orange-haired transmigrator stared seriously at a piece of paper in her hand. The quiet manor stood under a clear, bright sky. The orange-haired transmigrator leaned close to Princess Chenyang, whispering a grave secret. The prince consort had been secretly contacting the second prince. A serene traditional estate lay bathed in the clear morning light. Linghu Qiang watched Xiao Chu Ran, the elegant eldest princess, amidst the grand gathering. Guests fawned over the eldest princess, praising her noble grace and expressing their sheer luck at her rare appearance. Linghu Qiang couldn't believe it. Xiao Churan was the crown prince's biological sister, a plot twist too fantastical to comprehend. He grimly understood why the system had been so confident. The story's core plot, even with his interference, was unchangeable. The Linghu family's inevitable downfall, he realized, was sealed by their loyalty to the crown prince, who would soon fall to the second prince, a fate the eldest princess was clearly tied to. For his family's survival, he had to keep his distance. Entanglement with the eldest princess meant entanglement with the doomed crown prince, and that was a fate he wouldn't accept. The shocking implications left everyone reeling in disbelief. What could he do? Desperate to survive, Linghu Qiang pondered absurd, fantastical methods to eliminate the second prince, while his family watched on, utterly confused by his intensity. He quickly dismissed the ridiculous notions, then, with a defiant spark, wondered if open rebellion could save his family. A tense silence hung in the air as Linghu Feng and Wang Jie looked worried, while Xiao Chu Ran, in stark contrast, appeared distinctly angered. Whoosh! His mother, Wang Jie, called out in surprise as Linghu Qiang abruptly walked away, leaving his parents bewildered. He decided then, fully committed, rebellion was the only way, and killing the second prince was a trivial matter if it ensured his family's survival. Linghu Feng despaired to Wang Jie, lamenting that their son had seemingly lost his mind. Xiao Chu Ran's carriage departed, and those remaining bowed respectfully to bid the eldest princess farewell. He decided to postpone the intricate details of rebellion until morning, choosing sleep instead. Then, pulling back his blanket, he gasped in utter confusion. F*K. Linghu Qiang exploded, finding Xiao Chu Ran lying seductively in his bed. His voice laced with disbelief, he stammered, didn't your carriage already leave? Xiao Chu Ran calmly revealed that while the carriage departed, she had simply climbed over the wall to get in. With a subtle smile, she then asked Linghu Qiang if he, too, could hear things he shouldn't. Are you talking your thoughts? She pressed, and he grimaced in reluctant acceptance. That's right, I can hear them, Xiao Chu Ran affirmed, then casually dropped the bombshell. She'd overheard his entire plan to rebel and kill the second prince. Distraught, Linghu Qiang pleaded, I just want to survive, do you understand? That's all I want. Idiot, she retorted, annoyed, you've thought of so many ways, why didn't you think about me? With a confident smile, Xiao Chu Ran proposed an alliance, striking first to protect the crown prince, given her own precarious position if the second prince prevailed. Linghu Qiang, however, was resolute in his reluctance, stating he wanted no part in the dangerous political turmoil surrounding her. I was just asking casually, she said, her smile turning sly, but don't forget, I'm the eldest princess. I could just ask my father emperor to decree a marriage. Would you dare resist? A brutal, unseen force slammed into Linghu Qiang, sending fractured pain through his entire being. Amidst the chaos, he cried out to Xiao Chu Ran, desperately urging her to think twice about her intentions. Kneeling before her, Linghu Qiang tried to reason, arguing their connection was merely a fictional one from a novel and that they should not confuse their roles. Xiao Chu Ran remained silent, her expression unreadable, hinting at a deeper game. He continued to plead, suggesting they were now even and could simply be friends, if only she would abandon the idea of marriage. His hand, clammy with fear, gripped tightly onto her robe, drenched in cold sweat. Then, Xiao Chu Ran turned away, tears welling in her eyes, leaving Linghu Qiang concerned. Surprised by her sudden distress, he stammered, attempting to comfort her as she wept. Linghu Qiang apologized for being too harsh but insisted on the bitter truth, as Xiao Chu Ran pointedly turned her back to him. He launched into a convoluted explanation about their family relations, arguing a marriage between them would create an impossible social dilemma with his uncle. Dismissing his elaborate reasoning, Xiao Chu Ran simply told him to do as he pleased, her frustration clear. Through her tears, Xiao Chu Ran abruptly revealed she knew his entire plan, to rebel and kill the second prince. With chilling calm, she then threatened to tell her father tomorrow, ensuring Linghu Qiang and his entire family would be executed. She clarified her terrifying power, stating that her father's favoritism meant she could execute his family without evidence. Xiao Chu-ran then provocatively corrected his misunderstanding, stating her tears were for his impending death, not his rejection. Suddenly, she slapped his hand away. A seductive smile played on her lips as Xiao Chu-ran re-evaluated their marriage, reaching out to the now blushing Linghu Qiang. Her hands moved sensuously, exploring his waist. Linghu Qiang stood utterly confused as Xiao Chu-ran, with a suggestive smile, proposed immediate intimacy to motivate him. Still lost in bewilderment, he tried to regain her attention, asking if she could even hear him. In his heart, Linghu Qiang confessed his unspoken truth: he was already committed to Mao Qiyu. He firmly declared his exclusive devotion to Mao Qiyu, stating their old relationship and his intention to remain faithful to her alone. A sharp, unexpected blow struck him. Xiao Chu-ran's touch became aggressive as she declared her actions a punishment, chastising him for being so particular about it. As Linghu Qiang questioned his wrongdoing, Xiao Chu-ran pushed him down, proclaiming his affiliation with the Mao family made him a traitor who deserved her punishment on behalf of the crown prince. With a dramatic flourish, Xiao Chu-ran pulled a curtain, cloaking them both in intimacy. Leaning close, Xiao Chu-ran whispered a provocative question about his birth year. With a confident smile, she shed her outer garments, asserting her identity as a fox. Linghu Qiang let out a startled sound as his hand was suddenly grabbed. Xiao Chu-ran embraced him tightly from behind, pressing against him. Gazing deeply into his eyes, Xiao Chu-ran commanded him to kiss her. A gasp of intense pleasure escaped Xiao Chu-ran's lips. Linghu Qiang declared she had asked for this, confidently embracing her. Xiao Chu-ran provocatively challenged his performance, her eyes half closed in seductive appraisal. The majestic palace ground stretched under a bright sky. Discarded robes spoke of a night's intimacy. A hand smoothed the rich purple fabric. Linghu Heng gently requested the princess's hand, offering to help her dress. Princess Chenyang mused, a sly smile playing on her lips, that she would have been with him sooner had she known it would make him so obedient. They walked calmly through the sunlit courtyard. Princess Chenyang waved off his escort, confidently patting his chest as she declared he had served her well. Linghu Heng smiled with genuine gratitude, thanking the princess for her compassion. As she walked away, Princess Chenyang paused, remembering something. Her tone turning serious, Princess Chenyang advised him to prepare for what had been left undone must now be accomplished. With a swift motion, Princess Chenyang flew off, commanding him to wait for her to return and marry him. Linghu Heng stood solemnly, lost in thought, as his family observed him from a distance. Linghu Feng voiced his premonition, feeling that something significant was about to unfold. Linghu Heng's mother reacted with comic horror, convinced she was going crazy upon realizing her son had slept with the eldest princess. Linghu Shan wondered if Henger's mysterious words were having an effect, asking if Princess Chenyang could hear them as well. A wave of shared surprise washed over them as they all realized they could hear Linghu Heng's inner thoughts. Linghu Heng's mother expressed immense relief, overjoyed that she wasn't the only one hearing her son's unspoken voice. Linghu Shan, however, hypothesized that not everyone possessed the ability to hear it. He recalled that their third brother, Linghu Gang, had never reacted to Henger's inner voice, suggesting he lacked the ability. Linghu Feng proudly explained how Henger's thoughts had always proven beneficial to the family, citing numerous business successes and avoided conflicts that saved them considerable trouble. He then speculated that perhaps only those truly beneficial to the Linghu family could hear Henger's inner voice, noting their third brother's ambition and recent fall from favor. Linghu Shang agreed with the logic but suggested they test this theory later, recognizing it was still only a guess. Linghu Feng decisively declared the plan settled, his family silently assenting. The grand palace building stood silent under the sky. A carrier pigeon, bearing news from the Linghu family, cooed as it arrived. Zhang Beixian, reading a new report, noted the eldest princess's visit to Linghu Manor and Linghu Heng's surprisingly usual demeanor. A single candle flickered softly in the dim room. The door swung open, and Second Prince Xiaoqingze strode in with open arms. Second Prince Xiaoqingze laughed heartily, hailing Master Beixian as a true master of predictions. The prince excitedly revealed that General Mozi, his own general, had indeed turned traitor and joined the crown prince. Zhang Beixian responded with a grateful smile, thanking the prince for his timely warning. Feigning humility, Zhang Beixian insisted he deserved no credit, attributing the traitor's swift capture entirely to the second prince's decisiveness and keen judgment. Laughing confidently, the second prince then promised his sister, Xiao Chuan, as a wife for Zhang Beixian once the crown prince was overthrown. With a sly smile, he further offered General Mao Shun's granddaughter, Mao Qiyu, as a valued concubine, knowing Zhang Beixian's long-standing interest in her. Zhang Beixian knelt in profound gratitude, thanking the second prince for his generous offers. Yet, in his mind, Zhang Beixian scoffed, seeing all princes as mere fools dancing at his mercy. Having arrived in this strange new world, Zhang Beixian's true ambition burned. He would not remain subservient, he would take all the women, and this entire world would eventually be his. An imperial official formally declared a decree from the emperor. Linghu Hang and Linghu Qiang, acting as Zhang Beixian, both knelt solemnly to receive the imperial pronouncement. Two high-ranking officials began to read the emperor's words. Linghu Hang cried out in utter disbelief, questioning the shocking news contained within the decree. Linghu Qiang, still in his guise as Zhang Beixian, exploded in fury, slamming his fist to the ground. He struggled to comprehend the decrees. His father received mere wealth, yet Linghu Hang was to be bestowed the princess in marriage. Linghu Qiang raged at the thought of his own sister, a princess, being married into a merchant family, no matter their wealth. Convinced of foul play, Linghu Qiang roared that Linghu Hang must have tricked them all. Our hero, Linghu Qiang, wondered if this Linghu Hang was the same soul from his previous world, which would explain everything. Linghu Qiang cursed Linghu Hang, lamenting that even the eldest princess Xiao Qiren was now being forced into this villain's schemes. Linghu Hang, seemingly unperturbed, asked why Linghu Qiang, still acting as Master Beixian, was so anxious, suggesting they had time before the actual marriage. Linghu Qiang then turned to the second prince, seeking his counsel for a way forward. Second Prince Xiao Qing's revealed consort Hui would soon host a flower viewing party, bringing together all the important ministers and their families. The second prince leaned in, whispering a plan to disgrace Linghu Hang at the party, confident that the emperor would never allow his beloved sister to marry a clown and would annul the marriage. Linghu Qiang readily agreed, sealing the alliance with a handshake and thanking the second prince for his cunning plan. From outside the mansion, a woman's voice sharply called for Linghu Hang. Mao Qiue ignored the guard's warning, pressing determinedly into the Linghu mansion. Inside, Xiao Qiren emerged to inquire about the commotion, her gaze falling upon the determined Miss Mao. Mao Qiue immediately challenged Xiao Qiren, implying her premature assumption of a host's role was out of line. The two women, both intent on seeing Linghu Hang, fiercely dared each other to discover who he would choose. A lone figure stood before the majestic mansion, bathed in morning light. The elder Linghu Qiang demanded to know the princess's whereabouts, only to learn with alarm that she and Miss Mao had rushed straight to the young master. Wang Jie, Princess Chenyang, and the elder Linghu Qiang all reacted with profound shock to the news. Linghu Hang, visibly distressed, urgently demanded an explanation. Mao Qiue and Xiao Qiren confronted Linghu Hang, demanding he choose between them, while he desperately tried to calm the escalating situation. As both women pulled at him, demanding a choice, Linghu Hang inwardly wished he could simply vanish. Xiao Qiren cunningly reminded Mao Qiue of her family's loyalty to the second prince, questioning how she could marry into a family loyal to the crown prince. Mao Qiue defiantly scoffed, boasting that her grandfather's affection meant she could easily sway his allegiance to the crown prince. Xiao Qiren dismissed Mao Qiue's threat, asserting her untouchable status as the crown prince's sister with an imperial marriage grant. Mao Qiue furiously countered, declaring her family's 500,000 heavy cavalry far outweighed a mere marriage grant. Linghu Hang, miniaturized by his distress, desperately wished the two women would take their argument elsewhere. Suddenly, a profound realization dawned upon Linghu Hang, making him pause. He gripped Mao Qiue's shoulders, his surprise clear as he asked her to repeat the troop count she had just mentioned. Mao Qiue, blushing faintly in her confusion, questioned back, 500,000. 500,000. Linghu Hang exclaimed, his mind racing as he turned to Mao Qiue with a pointed question. With a sly smile, Linghu Hang then asked why her family, commanding such a massive army, didn't simply consider taking the throne themselves. Linghu Qiang reeled, the sheer weight of 500,000 troops hitting him with startling force. Mao Qiue confidently asserted the second prince's competitive edge, while Linghu Qiang, despite his earlier thoughts, conceded the raw power she represented. She then brazenly proclaimed the immense power of her Mao family, certain that it allowed her to contend with Linghu Hang herself. But Linghu Hang swiftly countered, reminding Mao Qiue of her consistent lack of formal status, mentioning past engagements and an imperial marriage decree that solidified her own claim. Mao Qiue furiously retorted, boasting of her intimate contact with him and demanding Linghu Hang stop using such an intimate name. Linghu Hang merely offered a sly, knowing wink in response, implying her own secret intimacies. The air crackled around them as Mao Qiue and Linghu Hang physically clashed, their volatile emotions igniting a furious confrontation. Both women, reduced to chibi form by their anger, desperately called out as Linghu Qiang comically fled the escalating absurdity. He found himself comically distressed, demanding an explanation from the chaotic situation. Linghu Qiang dramatically claimed that his innocence had been forcefully taken in the wild exchange. Suddenly, a hand seized Linghu Qiang's collar with a firm grip. Mao Qiue, unwavering, declared that her family's 500,000 troops would ensure the emperor's understanding, urging Linghu Qiang to follow his heart, immune to any external meddling. Linghu Hang, however, bristled with anger, accusing Mao Qiue of going too far. At that tense moment, a court official's voice cut through the air, announcing the arrival of an imperial decree. Linghu Qiang looked on in disbelief. Another decree, this one proclaimed as life-saving. The court official beamed, explaining the emperor's invitation to a flower appreciation gathering, then prompted Linghu Qiang for his gratitude. Linghu Qiang respectfully thanked His Majesty, and 2 days later, the bustling flower viewing gathering unfolded under a bright sky. Suddenly, his system screamed warnings, and Linghu Qiang, shocked and confused, desperately asked why characters from his previous novel were reappearing. The system flashed grave warnings, detecting a serious intrusion before briefly clearing and then frantically trying to fix an error. Linghu Qiang screamed in agony, clutching his head as the glitching system overwhelmed his senses. Nearby, a groom stood calmly beside a harnessed horse. But in the carriage house, Linghu Qiang suddenly collapsed, and the concerned groom rushed to his side. He slowly regained consciousness, his gaze drifting upwards in confusion. Linghu Qiang groaned, waking in an ornate bedroom to Linghu Hang's relieved pronouncement that he had been unconscious for half an hour. Confused, Linghu Qiang asked where he was, and Linghu Hang calmly explained that he had fainted and been brought to her bedchamber. Just then, a voice from outside announced the second prince's arrival to the eldest princess. Linghu Hang looked away, a blush creeping onto her face as she pondered whether to allow him entry. Linghu Qiang, concerned about their unmarried status, tried to leave, but Linghu Hang quickly stopped him, insisting he was too weak and she would simply send the visitors away. However, the second prince Xiaoqingze strode in, playfully questioning who Linghu Hang was planning to dismiss. Zhang Beixian, accompanying the prince, respectfully knelt before the eldest princess. Linghu Qiang felt a flicker of recognition, pondering why Zhang Beixian seemed so familiar. The second prince teased Linghu Hang about the presence of a brother-in-law, to which Linghu Qiang reacted with an embarrassed denial. Xiaoqingze then casually told Zhang Beixian to rise, asserting that the princess did not care for such rigid formalities. Zhang Beixian looked up with an intense gratitude, thanking the second prince. Linghu Qiang's eyes widened in sudden, profound shock as a realization dawned upon him. The grand palace stood, serene and majestic, under a clear sky. A jolt of realization hit Linghu Qiang. Zhang Beixian, too, had crossed over into this world. The three main characters from the last novel had all followed him, triggering endless system warnings and fixes. This new world offered no resurrection, only true death. Eldest Princess Linghu Hang mirrored his shock. Zhang Beixian had indeed arrived in this world and secured a position as the second prince's advisor. Second Prince Xiaoqingze, ever the diplomat, smoothly invited Zhang Beixian to take a seat, receiving a respectful, "Thank you, second prince," in return. His brother, the second prince, began to speak of their father's favor, allowing Linghu Hang to choose her own husband, but a clear, but hung in the air. He warned her that allowing brother-in-law Linghu Qiang to remain without a proper title would not only shame her but bring the emperor's full wrath upon the entire Linghu family. Linghu Hang interjected, clarifying that young Master Linghu had merely fainted, a fact witnessed by many, but the second prince simply laughed, playfully insisting he was only concerned for her. Then, with a glint in his eye, the second prince asked Master Beixian, known for his medical prowess, to diagnose Linghu Qiang, and Zhang Beixian assented immediately. Princess Linghu Hang, Princess Chenyang, directly confronted Zhang Beixian with a sharp, "What are you doing?" leaving Linghu Qiang internally astonished by her brazenness. Second Prince Xiaoqingze pressed, politely requesting to diagnose Master Linghu, then chillingly added that if the illness proved false, her honor would be severely compromised, ending with an ominous otherwise. He then delivered a grave warning, reminding Churin of the harsh realities of ancient times, where a woman found hiding a man faced imprisonment in a pig cage in the countryside. Princess Linghu Hang, Princess Chenyang, held her silence, her resolve hardening against his words. Linghu Hang feigned compliance, asking Master Beixian to diagnose her pulse, while internally gloating about the props she'd accumulated from her novel trips, ready to beat him up. Then, with a deceptively innocent smile, Linghu Hang asked the second prince, "But your highness, what if Master Beixian couldn't treat me?" Her gaze unwavering, Linghu Hang articulated the dire consequences. Deceiving the imperial family could result in imprisonment or even execution. Second Prince Xiaoqingze queried Linghu Hang, asking about Master Linghu's lack of official position, but Linghu Hang deflected, declaring Zhang Beixian was her advisor, punctuated by a sudden cough. A small, reddish-brown pill, potent and sinister, rested in a steady hand. Linghu Hang's thoughts spun with a conniving plot. A high magic poison, untraceable and incurable in this world, was her reward. She planned to administer it, then, with the antidote in hand, watch his desperate reaction. Linghu Qiang subtly reminded the second prince of the strict palace rules. Male officials needed royal decrees, otherwise, only eunuchs could move freely. A standard Zhang Beixian must also meet. Then, Linghu Qiang's thoughts drifted to a mocking speculation. I wonder if Master Beixian is, could he be a eunuch? Zhang Beixian remained speechless, a silent wave of bewilderment washing over him. The second prince, with a knowing laugh, declared he would apologize to the emperor later, but Master Linghu's condition could not wait, insisting, we should treat him first. Then, Linghu Qiang erupted in a violent fit of coughs, blood spewing from her lips, as Princess Chenyang watched in horror. A shocking spray of blood splattered across the ornate rug. The second prince recoiled, his surprise evident. Princess Linghu Qiang, Princess Chenyang, skeptically asked Linghu Qiang if his sudden illness was merely an act, but he insisted on his discomfort, demanding Master Beixian check his pulse. Princess Linghu Qiang, maintaining the charade, urgently pressed Master Beixian to hurry. Zhang Beixian stood at Linghu Qiang's bedside, the atmosphere thick with somber concern as the examination began. Linghu Qiang feebly managed, please diagnose. While internally raging at the poison's potent grip, desperate for Zhang Beixian to hurry so he could detoxify himself. Zhang Beixian carefully assessed Linghu Qiang's pulse, his brow furrowed in concentration. Zhang Beixian's diagnostic mind reeled. Linghu Qiang's pulse was a chaotic symphony, wildly fluctuating, a running horse one moment, a barely there whisper the next, defying all known medical characteristics. A chilling suspicion formed in Zhang Beixian's mind, a rare, potent poison. Linghu Qiang, meanwhile, feigned desperation, asking, can Master Beixian save me? A stark realization hit Zhang Beixian, his eyes widening in profound shock as sweat beaded on his brow. A tense, audible gulp escaped Zhang Beixian's throat. Zhang Beixian grimly reported to the second prince, Master Linghu will not survive this night, eliciting a surprised ah. So early, from Xiao Qingze. Xiao Qingze erupted, what did you say? But Zhang Beixian calmly reaffirmed that not even the country's most renowned doctors could change the prognosis, forcing the prince to ask, so, you can't cure his illness? Princess Linghu Qiang looked upon Linghu Qiang with a deepening concern, her voice barely a whisper. Linghu Qiang's lips were starkly stained with blood. Princess Linghu Qiang's thoughts burned with fury. She suspected Linghu Qiang used a weird technique, vowing to dig up and whip his corpse if he truly died, vehemently rejecting the idea of being a widow. Princess Linghu Qiang sharply reminded Zhang Beixian of Linghu Qiang's earlier question about failure, but Zhang Beixian, defensively, asserted his limits, warning her, don't be aggressive. Linghu Qiang, still acting the part of the dying patient, challenged, Master Beixian, are you sure I'm going to die? Zhang Beixian, with a smug smirk, confirmed, I can't cure this disease, but I'm sure you're incurable. Zhang Beixian's thoughts spiraled into sinister arrogance, gloating that Linghu Qiang's death would hand him Mao Qiyue and Xiao Qiren, declaring, no, this whole world belongs to me, Zhang Beixian. But Linghu Qiang, with a sudden surge of energy, spat out, quack. Provoking Zhang Beixian's enraged cry, what did you say? Linghu Qiang, blood still on his lips, defiantly repeated, I said you are a quack. I bet you that anyone I find can cure me. Zhang Beixian coldly dismissed him as delirious, advising immediate funeral preparations, but Linghu Qiang retorted with a daring challenge, how about this, if I survive 3 days, you'll go to the city gate and dance naked, how about that? Linghu Qiang's thoughts cut deep, Zhang Beixian, I know you better than you think, he mused, revealing his system's synchronization with the previous novel. He acknowledged Zhang Beixian's skill but condemned his arrogance and the golden finger the author granted him, noting, but it's a pity. Then, with defiant resolve, Linghu Qiang declared, this is not the same world. Zhang Beixian, brimming with arrogant confidence, delivered his final jab, after tonight, I'll burn paper on your grave every year. Linghu Qiang subtly shushed the room, his eyes glinting with a secret plan. Feigning exhaustion, Linghu Qiang requested rest, and Princess Chenyang, expressing concern, reassured him that she was to blame for his current state. Princess Chenyang appealed to her second brother, asking if the seriously ill Linghu Qiang could rest, to which the second prince callously agreed, seeing no reason to be aggressive towards a dying man. The second prince then casually mentioned that the Prince of Qi would also attend that day's banquet. Princess Chenyang received the news with a silent, troubled grimace. The second prince, his business concluded, bowed slightly and took his leave. The door clicked shut behind him. Princess Chenyang, still anxious, questioned Linghu Qiang's condition, recalling Zhang Beixian's supposed medical skills, but he quickly revealed he had faked his illness by taking a subtle poison to deceive Zhang Beixian. Her eyes widened, Princess Chenyang exclaimed that he had acted too hastily. Linghu Qiang simply held up a small, glowing pill, announcing it was the antidote. He assured her the poison would be completely detoxified in a moment, then swallowed the pill. Linghu Qiang shifted the conversation, telling her she should worry about herself instead, which prompted her confused inquiry. He gravely revealed that the Prince of Qi, whom the second prince had mentioned, was coming for her. More precisely, he clarified, the Prince of Qi was there to propose marriage, which made Princess Qianyang question her emperor father's promise that she could choose her own husband. Linghu Qiang explained that the Prince of Qi had not appeared in the original plot, but now, for the sake of political alliance, the emperor would sacrifice the eldest princess, forcing her into a marriage, for imperial kinship always served politics. He underscored his point, stating that even the deepest father-daughter affection was nothing but a fragile piece of rice paper in the face of vast political interests. Princess Qianyang demanded to know why he hadn't warned her, but Linghu Qiang defended himself, explaining the story's drastically altered plot and his own unexpected fainting spell that brought him to her chambers. With fierce resolve, Princess Qianyang declared she would never agree to a political marriage. Linghu Qiang gently held her hand, quickly cautioning her to speak softly, reminding her that even walls had ears in the palace. He grimly highlighted the fierce struggle between the crown prince and second prince, the rampant spies in the palace due to her closeness with the crown prince, and how crying or making a scene would do nothing to help her. Linghu Qiang promised to devise a plan, his chibi form suddenly exclaiming his ingenuity, which piqued Princess Qianyang's chibi curiosity. With a confident smile, Princess Qianyang proposed they make a baby, believing pregnancy would derail the entire political scheme, as her dress rustled open. Linghu Qiang erupted in protest, internally despairing if she thought he wasn't dying fast enough already. How could I ever let you die? Princess Qianyang lovingly responded, prompting Linghu Qiang's immediate realization that she had heard his thoughts once more. Princess Qianyang, with a confident smile, informed him that she would likely hear his complaints anyway, so he might as well say them directly. Linghu Qiang sighed deeply, apologizing for his subconscious complaint and urgently explaining that her baby-making plan would only lead to the execution of his entire family. He continued, detailing the grim realities of their dynasty. Women could remarry after 3 years of widowhood or divorce, but even pregnancy would be met with forced miscarriage, ensuring she would still be married off. Shrugging in defeat, Princess Qianyang asked what they should do instead. Linghu Qiang, with a sly smile, suggested a path forward involving the crown prince, who in the novel was a devoted brother and would never allow her to marry far away if he ascended the throne, causing Princess Qianyang to question if he meant usurping power. He elaborated on the plot's tangled nature, with Mao Qiue and Zhang Beixian crossing over from a previous novel, himself from another dimension, and Ning Yi as another transmigrator, concluding that the original author must have written it crazily. Linghu Qiang whispered his suspicions about Zhang Beixian's greater ambitions, warning that if he usurped the throne, Princess Qianyang would become part of his harem, not the Prince of Qi's wife, before boldly suggesting they take matters into their own hands. Linghu Qiang startled, as if his full name had just been called. He opened his eye, a sound of confusion escaping his lips. Princess Qianyang, with a fierce glint in her eye, demanded that he not let her down. Linghu Qiang pondered Xiao Churan's preference for strong men, wondering if she might fall for him in this new setting, and if this thought, too, counted as a complaint she could hear. Princess Qianyang affirmed her trust, and Linghu Qiang promised not to let her down in this book, but added a grim caveat about being forced to exit, which would be beyond his control. The palace banquet was about to begin, Linghu Qiang mused, looking towards the bright sky. Declaring himself detoxified and ready for drinks, Linghu Qiang instructed Princess Qianyang to claim she had cured him, a command she promptly understood. He then impressed upon her the absolute secrecy of their conversation, adding that he still needed to confirm matters with Mao Qiue. Princess Qianyang instantly erupted in a comically jealous outburst, demanding to know if he was going to see Mao Qiue again. He stammered, justifying his intent by citing Mao Qiue's 500,000 troops, but Princess Qianyang fiercely demanded he swear his intentions were solely for the troops, not for her. He cried out in surprise as she grabbed him. Princess Qianyang pushed him back, playfully asserting he couldn't see Mao Qiue just yet, then asked him what he intended to do. Her dress tore open, revealing more of her body. Pinning him down, Princess Qianyang seductively declared her intention to squeeze him dry, so he could only honestly speak with Mao Qiue, but Linghu Qiang frantically reminded her of the imminent palace banquet. She passionately vowed that in just 1 hour, she would make him desire nothing else, ensuring his body would never be able to leave her. A confident, alluring smile played on her lips. Linghu Qiang's mind raced, utterly flustered by her bold advances. His thoughts exclaimed she was simply too much, a towering pillar rising to the heavens before him. Figures ascended the wide steps of the grand palace, their movements a solemn, bustling prelude to the events unfolding within. As they walked, a man turned to Zhang Beixian, asking if Linghu Heng was truly as ill as rumored. Zhang Beixian merely offered a confident smirk, confirming the ailment with a sly, "That's absolutely true." But Linghu Qiang abruptly stopped, a thought striking him like a physical blow. Linghu Heng's confidence had been too high. Could his own diagnosis have been wrong, or had Linghu Heng used some strange magic? Meanwhile, elsewhere, a man leaned towards second Prince Xiao Qingze, confessing his growing suspicion that something was amiss. The man explained that Linghu Qiang was far too cunning to make such a bet without a hidden strategy. Second Prince Xiao Qingze, intrigued, returned a sly smile, asking what the man intended to do. With a determined clench of his fist, the man declared he would ensure Linghu Qiang did not survive 3 days, surprising the second prince. A malevolent smirk spread across the man's face as he asserted that such a womanizing scum deserved immediate death. Back on the grand staircase, the schemer wished Master Beixian success with a chilling laugh, to which Zhang Beixian promised he would not disappoint. The tension lingered unspoken between two observers, a pensive quiet falling over them. In a luxurious chamber, Mao Qiue posed a seductive challenge to Linghu Qiang, daring him to deny their connection after their intimacy. Linghu Qiang, flustered, accused her of slander, but Mao Qiue confidently asserted her right as his fiancée. His chibi form appeared, exasperated, protesting that their current situation was a leftover from a previous novel, and he was not the simp Linghu Qiang she knew. Mao Qiue, however, remained unfazed, declaring with alluring confidence that she would make him hers, regardless of the dimension. Linghu Qiang, caught off guard, replied that he was no longer a lapdog, to be easily pursued, while his inner chibi thought screamed at Mao Qiue for seemingly hearing his secret excitement over her sudden personality shift. Mao Qiue playfully poked Linghu Qiang's chin, inviting him to guess her next move. Her hand glided to his waist, as she teasingly suggested he was being stubborn and secretly desired her. Linghu Qiang firmly grabbed her hand, asserting his strength went beyond mere words. Then, Mao Qiue's chibi form promised to gather information about the Prince of Qi before the banquet, bidding Linghu Qiang to take care with a manipulative sweetness. Elsewhere, Linghu Qiang bowed respectfully to an older, seated man in a grand hall. At the banquet, another man, holding a small cup, convivially invited Brother Huang to share a drink. The elder prince, seated with a gold crown, smiled faintly as he welcomed his second brother, noting his early arrival. Another man simply took a drink from his cup. He savored the sip, a moment of relaxed enjoyment before the evening's true business began. The second brother, with a sly smile, then provocatively asked the elder prince if he knew their sister had taken a lover. The elder prince's expression grew serious, questioning the source of such a disbelieving rumor about his sister. The second brother leaned back, providing malicious details, naming Princess Chenyang's nephew, Linghu Qiang, as the supposed lover who had even slept in her bed. A tense silence fell as the elder prince absorbed the shocking revelation. Unperturbed, the second brother calmly continued to provoke, suggesting their sister was no longer a child and needed to marry. The elder prince finally challenged him, demanding to know his true intentions. The second brother then threatened his elder sibling, warning that if the rumor about their sister having a lover spread, their father would betroth her to the Prince of Qi, and the elder prince would also face the emperor's punishment. The elder prince glared, accusing the second brother of threatening him, a charge the second brother denied with a veiled smile. He feigned concern, claiming he only wished to remind his brother and prevent any misfortune. Then, with a sly smile and a raised cup, the second brother announced the arrival of the lover, as the elder prince stiffened. The elder prince's fist clenched tight within his golden sleeve, a silent, angry grind of teeth. The second brother observed the escalating tension with a smug, knowing smile. A chibi version of the second brother wondered internally if the elder prince would even react. Composed, the elder prince dismissed his concerns, calmly pouring a drink and reassuring him that their sister knew what she was doing regarding her marriage prospects. With a sarcastic smirk, the second brother declared he no longer cared if the elder prince tolerated the situation, announcing his departure. As he rose, the second brother delivered a final, subtly mocking taunt, complimenting the view and comfort of the elder prince's seat. The two princes moved through the grand hall with formal solemnity. Internal stress coiled into a clenched fist. Linghu Qiang could hardly believe the man in question was rumored to be his own sister's lover. A wave of disappointment washed over him, realizing he had been completely unaware of his own predicament. He sensed the crown prince's gaze after the second prince's whispers, knowing his cannon fodder role in this novel meant another storm was brewing, demanding extreme caution. His frantic calls to the system went unanswered, leaving Linghu Qiang in internal panic over the mission's failure, wondering if he would be punished until the very end. A wave of despair washed over him, realizing he possessed no skills beyond wealth, leaving him utterly unprepared to face any protagonist. He reflected on the irony that Ning Yi, the protagonist he was meant to defeat, had somehow become his close friend. If Ning Yi was out, another character replaced him, yet Linghu Qiang wondered if the true adversary should be Zhang Beixian instead. Linghu Qiang's anxiety grew, realizing the abrupt end of the last novel might have been setting him up to battle Zhang Beixian in this one, a formidable opponent with strange skills. A sudden voice pulled him from his thoughts, asking what consumed him. Mao Qiue confidently asserted her presence, reminding him that her grandfather's influence granted her access anywhere she pleased. Mao Qiue leaned in, her nose twitching with suspicion, demanding to know why he carried another woman's perfume, to which Linghu Qiang bluntly admitted it belonged to Xiao Chu Ran. Her anger flared as she accused him of dropping his charade entirely. With a sly wink, second Prince Xiaoqingze declared that Mao Qiuan now knew Linghu Qiang to be a shameless man. Zhang Beixian passionately declared his heart was only for her, uncaring of her past affections, and promised to offer refuge if she chose to return from her path. Mao Qiue, fueled by jealousy, demanded to know the extent of his involvement with Xiao Chu Ran, to which he simply confessed, all the way. The raw confession left Mao Qiue utterly heartbroken and speechless. Mao Qiue questioned his choice, but Linghu Qiang explained his helplessness, a mere merchant's son bound to obey the whims of the powerful princess. A sliver of hope appeared as she asked if he had been forced, but her words trailed off into hesitant uncertainty. Linghu Qiang let out a long, weary sigh. Linghu Qiang exasperatedly questioned their obsession with him, admitting their existence within a novel meant their next meeting was uncertain. Mao Qiue passionately demanded he take responsibility for her, challenging his lack of self-determination, especially now that his system was broken and the future so uncertain. Linghu Qiang muttered dramatically about love hindering his sword speed, while Mao Qiue angrily demanded he clarify his intentions regarding responsibility. Linghu Qiang insisted he hadn't refused responsibility but stressed his current struggle for survival as cannon fodder, which Mao Qiue humorously acknowledged with a pop culture reference. Mao Qiue considered their budding romance, but her primary concern was surviving as cannon fodder, then asked who would be responsible for him if she suddenly died. Mao Qiue boldly offered her family's 500,000 heavy troopers as a dowry, declaring them his greatest asset in this materialistic world, which prompted Linghu Qiang to question her grandfather's agreement. Mao Qiue promised to secure her grandfather's approval if Linghu Qiang would commit solely to her and disregard Xiao Chu Ran. Princess Xiao Chu Ran, in purple, suddenly interjected, angrily accusing Mao Qiue of playing tricks behind her back, though she allowed the theft of her man. Mao Qiue rose, defiantly mocking the princess and challenging her fear. Princess Xiao Chu Ran and Mao Qiue angrily declared their intentions to compete fairly, while Linghu Qiang watched, visibly uncomfortable. In a comically intense vision, Princess Xiao Chu Ran and Mao Qiue warned a terrified Linghu Qiang that a wrong choice could cost him his head. Second Prince Xiaoqingze smugly believed Princess Chu Ran's anger signaled regret, promising he would wait for her return, as she was his first love. Linghu Qiang, observing his sister's anger, realized the rumors were false and resolved not to fall into Xiaoqingze's traps. The princess remained furious, while the second prince pointedly ignored her. Second Prince Xiaoqingze softly addressed his sister as she sat down, a calm belying underlying tension. The princess drained her cup in a single, decisive gulp. With a cunning smile, Second Prince Xiaoqingze attempted to placate her, advising her not to be angry. Princess Xiao Chu Ran tested his loyalty, asking if he would do anything for her, and he affirmed his mother's promise to prioritize his sister above all else, earning her dark approval. Her smile broadened as she tasked him with becoming emperor quickly, a command he confidently accepted with a laugh, their hands clasped in a dangerous pact. A wave of shock washed over Second Prince Xiaoqingze as the true implications of her request dawned on him. The opulent palace hall waited, rich with intricate details and warm light. The eldest princess, intense and unwavering, pressed her question directly to the crown prince, demanding if he was willing. A wave of relief washed over the crown prince, grateful their conversation had escaped the emperor's ears. "Sister, father is still on the throne. You mustn't say such things," he urged, but the eldest princess was consumed by dread, fearing eternal separation if forced into a foreign marriage. She painted a bleak future of isolation and tragedy, challenging her brother's powerlessness to save her from such a fate. The crown prince, overwhelmed, stammered that this couldn't be right, his panic comically exaggerated. The eldest princess, a sly smile playing on her lips, suggested they simply wait, then offered a hypothetical that brought immediate, eager agreement from her brother. An observant eye noted the striking contrast between the crown prince's fluster and the eldest princess's calm, sensing something deeply amiss. Mao Xiaojun, observing the royal siblings, whispered to Master Beixian that something was hidden, surmising the eldest princess was merely complaining about Linghu Hang's foul conduct. Zhang Beixian recoiled in disbelief, wondering if the eldest princess was possessed to be complaining to her brother about a mere concubine. With dark determination, Zhang Beixian saw opportunity in the princess's supposed ill will toward Linghu Hang, plotting to eliminate him at the opportune moment. A nearby voice warned them to guard their words, reminding them of the palace's many years, while Mao Xiaojun silently considered Zhang Beixian's increasingly abnormal behavior. A man bowed deeply and respectfully before the crown prince, who watched with a slight confusion. The man followed the crown prince through the lavish hall. Zhang Beixian grew pensive, a secret report arriving just before the banquet hinting at some unexpected, potentially troubling, event. A court official reported overhearing the second prince plotting filthy behavior and quick killings, but the crown prince, masking his concern, curtly ordered everyone to their seats for the impending banquet. The crown prince wondered with unease what kind of spectacle awaited them today, aware of the knowing glances exchanged by others. A booming voice announced the emperor's arrival, filling the hall with a sudden, ceremonial grandeur. The assembled officials bowed deeply, their unified chant of "Long live His Majesty" echoing through the opulent hall. From his golden throne, the emperor regally granted his ministers permission to be seated. The little prince of Qi confidently acknowledged their good fortune to welcome him, an opportunity to reaffirm the friendship between their two nations. Introducing himself as Qi Feng, the little prince of Qi expressed profound honor for the audience, then offered a toast for eternal diplomatic relations and generations of peace. Across the hall, cups rose in a collective toast to His Majesty and the little prince of Qi. The little prince savored a sip from his cup, eyes closed in relaxed enjoyment. An attendant politely served tea to the smiling little prince. The little prince of Qi, a sly smile on his face, proposed a toast to the eldest princess, who responded with clear displeasure. With elegant resolve, the eldest princess rose, holding her cup. She emptied her cup in a single, decisive gulp. Looking away, she stated pointedly to the little prince that her drink was finished, leaving no room for further pleasantries. The little prince of Qi managed only an awkward, sweaty smile, clearly taken aback by her abruptness. The emperor pondered his daughter Ranner's unusual rudeness, knowing the little prince of Qi was widely admired by young ladies at court. With a knowing smile, the emperor inquired about the little prince's marital status and if he had someone in mind. The little prince of Qi replied coyly that, yes, there was indeed someone he greatly admired. His gaze, full of coy admiration, drifted towards the eldest princess, who steadfastly avoided his eyes in clear displeasure. Internally, the eldest princess seethed, silently cursing him to stop looking her way. The emperor's thoughts turned calculative, seeing fate in the prince's admiration and a secure northern border if he could arrange this marriage. "Little prince, if I were to betroth the eldest princess to you, what would you think?" the emperor asked seriously, prompting a stunned but eager confirmation from the prince. The little prince began to express his fervent gratitude, but a sharp, unexpected voice dramatically cut him off, declaring, "I disagree." Linghu Qiang, with a sly smile, thanked His Majesty even as his true thoughts screamed defiance against the decree. The emperor's fury erupted, demanding to know who dared defy his imperial decree, while a man nearby noted the voice belonged to a young woman. Mao Qiyu inwardly mused that her intentions had been seen through, her sly smile hinting at deeper schemes. Stepping forward with confident grace, Mao Qiyu boldly declared her disagreement with the proposed marriage to His Majesty. A frustrated official fumed, realizing Miss Mao had preempted his move, but he quickly resolved to steal the spotlight once she failed. The emperor, his expression serious, directly asked Lady Mao for her reasons. With grave conviction, Mao Qiyu reported her family's fortune teller had declared the eldest princess an incarnation of the military star, destined to protect the nation, implying ruin if she married abroad. A shocked courtier internally questioned Mao Qiyue's sanity, bewildered by her audacious claims of heavenly phenomena in the Grand Hall. Mao Qiyu earnestly implored the emperor to reconsider his decision. The frustrated official, drenched in sweat, recognized his cue to intervene but decided to wait, letting the situation unfold further. He suddenly realized Miss Mao had somehow heard his internal grumbling just moments before. In a whimsical burst of thought, a chibi version of the frustrated official pondered if a fabricated, scary story could exploit the emperor's superstitions, while a chibi Mao Qiyu seemed to hum in agreement. The official gaped, realizing Mao Qiyu was taking his internal, nonsensical musings far too seriously, much to his distress. Mao Qiyu, subtle sweat beading, telepathically urged the official to contribute more than just inner thoughts and quickly provide cover for her. He felt her intense gaze, immediately wondering if she was cursing him silently within her mind. The emperor, coughing lightly, acknowledged the fortune teller's accuracy but inwardly lamented having spoken too soon, trapped by his own words. Frustrated, the emperor challenged Lady Mao on how he could retract his imperial word, then angrily demanded that his silent officials provide him a graceful exit from his predicament. Mao Qiyu, unyielding, once more pleaded with the emperor to reconsider. Declaring the matter settled, the emperor seethed, frustrated that his costly officials remained uselessly silent in his time of need. A deep sigh of distress escaped someone nearby as Linghu Qiang stepped forward, respectfully voicing his own disagreement with His Majesty's decision. The emperor, surprised, questioned the identity of this new intervener, relieved that someone had finally come to his rescue, despite being a stranger. Linghu Qiang, with confident ease, introduced himself as a member of the Linghu family, attending the imperial banquet by invitation. The emperor acknowledged Linghu Qiang's kinship to Princess Chenyang, then asked why he, too, disagreed with the royal decree. The frustrated official, fuming, cursed Linghu Qiang for stealing his moment, though he privately doubted the timing, knowing His Majesty was set on marrying off Chern. With fierce determination, the official inwardly vowed to crash the wedding and prevent Chern from marrying the little prince. Linghu Qiang delivered shocking news, gravely informing His Majesty that the eldest princess was critically ill and had little time left. A collective gasp and rustle of garments rippled through the opulent hall. The emperor's face contorted in shock and anger, demanding if Linghu Qiang truly comprehended the gravity of his words. The little prince of Qi angrily questioned if the emperor was deliberately orchestrating a farce to avoid their betrothal, while another official quickly tried to reassure him. The emperor, his voice sharp with anger, turned to Linghu Qiang, demanding a full explanation. Linghu Qiang confidently stated his medical knowledge, revealing he had examined Princess Chenyang's pulse last month, and challenged the emperor to verify his diagnosis with imperial physicians. Both the little prince of Qi and Princess Chenyang reacted with profound shock, the princess exclaiming her confusion about a terminal illness she hadn't known about or treated. Zhang Beixian whispered, confirming that their plan was now in motion. Zhang Beixian then introduced himself as the second prince's advisor, also proficient in medicine, and requested to examine the eldest princess's pulse, a request the emperor swiftly granted. Zhang Beixian approached Princess Chenyang, respectfully asking her pardon before beginning his examination. The little prince of Qi, bewildered, questioned who was orchestrating the day's events, while Princess Chenyang advised him to observe carefully. Zhang Beixian meticulously took Princess Chenyang's pulse. Princess Chenyang, distressed and reaching out, urgently demanded to know her condition. With a grave expression, Zhang Beixian reported to His Majesty that the eldest princess would indeed not live beyond 3 days. Both the little prince of Qi and Princess Chenyang were struck with profound shock, their eyes wide with disbelief. Enraged, the little prince of Qi drew his sword, furious that Zhang Beixian dared claim his healthy-looking sister was ill, accusing him of deceiving the emperor. Zhang Beixian stood firm, challenging the prince to summon imperial physicians to confirm his diagnosis, asking how he would dare lie before His Majesty. The emperor embraced Princess Ranner, his voice filled with worry, declaring that as her father, he could not allow her to marry far away in such a grave condition. With a passionate declaration, the emperor vowed a heavy reward for anyone who could cure the eldest princess's illness. Linghu Qiang watched the dramatic turn of events unfold, a sly, knowing smile playing on his lips. The imperial palace prepared for a momentous day. A grave silence hung heavy over the assembled court. A gentle touch sought a pulse, a measure of life. A senior court physician grimly reported that the eldest princess's internal energy was in chaos, her organs damaged, and they were powerless to save her. Ridiculous! Princess Chenyang cried, outraged that she, so full of life, was being told she would die, wondering if this was another of Linghu Qiang's schemes. The older physician bowed deeply, begging for the eldest princess's forgiveness, admitting their medical skills were clearly lacking. Distraught, Princess Chenyang turned to her father, the emperor, asking how this unthinkable situation could possibly be true. The emperor's desperate plea echoed through the hall, "Can anyone save my beloved daughter?" Zhang Beixian angrily demanded an explanation from Linghu Qiang, who had claimed to know medicine, about the princess's condition. Princess Chenyang, eyes wide with tears, urgently demanded to know if anyone could truly cure her. Linghu Qiang, however, accused Zhang Beixian of being the first to notice the illness and concealing it, suggesting he be interrogated, to which Zhang Beixian sarcastically praised his skill at shifting blame. Linghu Qiang calmly countered, claiming he hadn't concealed anything, but had lost sleep over the princess's illness, and had only that morning obtained a divine medicine recipe that required 49 days to make. Zhang Beixian feigned concern over the 49-day wait, but secretly mused that sacrificing Chern might be worth the opportunity to eliminate Linghu Qiang. Linghu Qiang, composed and confident, clarified that while the medicine took time, it could stabilize the princess for 3 days, which was precisely why he opposed her betrothal to the little prince. Zhang Beixian scoffed, asking how Linghu Qiang, with his own life hanging by a thread, dared speak of saving the eldest princess. The emperor's surprise quickly turned to alarm as the accusations escalated. Zhang Beixian confidently declared that he had taken Linghu Qiang's pulse that morning and knew he, too, would not live more than 3 days, demanding his execution for deceiving the emperor. Linghu Qiang, our hero, realized Xiao Chern's intimacy must have been a ploy, but found a strange relief in the predicament, at least he wouldn't be forced into a foreign marriage. Linghu Qiang, with smug confidence, proposed a bet: if he didn't die, Zhang Beixian would dance naked at the city gate. Zhang Beixian countered, asking what Linghu Qiang would do if he ensured the princess's survival. Suddenly, red warnings flashed across Linghu Qiang's vision, and he questioned what was happening. His system frantically reported a critical warning, correcting a bug, and erasing abnormal data due to an external intrusion. Linghu Qiang looked alarmed, deeply concerned by the system's frantic warnings. When the emperor asked what was wrong, a meek, chibi Linghu Qiang bowed and assured His Majesty that he was quite fine. Linghu Qiang pressed for an answer, wondering what was wrong with Zhang Beixian, whose expression had suddenly changed, making him seem like a different person. With eyes glowing red, Zhang Beixian simply declared, "You can't win." Zhang Beixian confidently asserted that the eldest princess would be fine, even without Linghu Qiang's help, leaving the princess confused. Linghu Qiang pondered if Zhang Beixian's sudden shift was connected to the system pop-up he'd just received, suspecting Zhang Beixian had also been notified. Mao Qiue gasped, wondering if Zhang Beixian had somehow acquired a cheat, too, a thought that shocked Princess Chenyang. Feigning tiredness, Princess Chenyang requested everyone withdraw, determined to prevent Zhang Beixian and Linghu Qiang from making another reckless bet, though Linghu Qiang called out, "Father." Princess Ranner, despite her supposed terminal illness, shrewdly urged her father to prioritize state affairs, noting the little Prince of Qi's arrival and the border peace treaty, earning the emperor's deep gratitude for her consideration. The emperor then issued his decisive decree: whoever cured Princess Ranner would be granted one request, but both would lose their heads if they failed, before dismissing everyone to let the princess rest. As they walked through the grand courtyard, Mao Qiue approached Linghu Qiang, her concern evident as she asked what was troubling him. Mao Qiue pointed out his continuous frowning, prompting Linghu Qiang to explain that the situation had changed, and he would communicate through thoughts, as something was strange about Zhang Beixian. Mao Qiue confirmed she could hear his thoughts, then suggested Zhang Beixian must have received a cheat too, remarking on his sudden personality change, a feeling she had vaguely sensed herself. With playful urgency, Chibi Mao Qiue decided they needed a quieter place to discuss her analysis, pulling a bewildered Linghu Qiang along. They quickly moved away, Mao Qiue pulling Linghu Qiang through the vast palace courtyard. Zhang Beixian, walking beside an aide, inwardly seated at Mao Qiue's impropriety in being so close to Linghu Qiang, given her family's alliance with him. An unidentified aide confidently reassured Second Prince Xiao Qingze that his great cause would surely be invincible with his support. Zhang Beixuan's intense gaze swept to the side, his expression unreadable, already plotting his next move. Linghu Qiang decided the time had come to reveal his true self, and Mao Qiue was ready to listen. He explained that he was a novel transmigrator, guided by a system through different stories, always playing the villain with a single mission: to survive. Mao Qiue revealed that she already knew this, even the part about Linghu Qiang, Xiao Chen, and Zhang Beixian transmigrating due to a system bug, as if it were obvious. Linghu Qiang was shocked by her calm, but Mao Qiue explained she had already heard all his inner complaints. Desperate, Linghu Qiang grabbed her shoulders, emphasizing the life and death stakes and reminding her that she was merely a fictional character. Mao Qiue, however, remained calm, stating she was well aware of her situation and questioned whether her status as a fictional character truly mattered in a world where transmigration was real. His mind reeled, leaving him completely stunned and speechless. She then turned the tables, challenging him to consider if he, too, was merely a character in an even larger story, questioning why his truth should be shocking. He admitted he had never considered such a possibility, a thought echoing in his mind: if novel transmigration was real, what else could be impossible? A more pressing matter weighed on him now: the system had malfunctioned in the hall, and Zhang Beixuan's sudden change in attitude suggested he had received special information or power. The system's warnings combined with these events hinted at a drastic shift in the story's direction, forcing him to devise an escape route from his bet with Zhang Beixian concerning Xiao Chen's terminal illness. Mao Qiue suddenly cut him off, her anger evident as she demanded to know why he had been in Xiao Chen's bedchamber, and whether his presence there was voluntary. The chibi Linghu Qiang offered a flimsy excuse of fainting and being carried there, earning an exasperated protest from the system about his poor keyword filtering. Chibi Mao Qiue teased him about the perfume from Xiao Chen, suggesting he faked his faint, but he insisted the faint was real and only the aftermath unexpected. Mao Qiue then provocatively asked if he knew how to wash off someone else's perfume, leaving him utterly confused while her chibi form expressed surprise at his ignorance. With a decisive grip, Mao Qiue declared she would make him face the consequences for his perceived deceit, threatening him with what awaited him tonight. Linghu Qiang tried to protest, explaining the system had bugged out, but Mao Qiue cut him off, dismissing his excuses as she pulled him towards her manor. He taunted her, questioning who would beg for mercy first now, given her earlier threats of wearing him out. Mao Qiue's muffled surrender was met with a playful demand to be released, as his hand remained firmly over her mouth. Blushing, Mao Qiue chided Linghu Heng for taking her jokes too seriously, claiming he had gone too far. Linghu Heng remained silent, allowing the suggestive tension to linger. Linghu Heng smugly declared that his actions were merely a light punishment for her interrupting his serious discussions. Then, with a confident smirk, he extended a hand, inviting her closer. Mao Qiue blushed, her voice hesitant as she questioned his intentions. He reminded her of his villainous nature, stating that since he commanded her to come, it was only natural to continue what they had started. Their hands intertwined as Mao Qiue asked who truly held his heart, her, or Xiao Chen. Linghu Heng pulled her into an embrace, playfully evading her question by asking why he had to choose. Flustered, she chided him for treating her like an easy woman. He reiterated his villainous nature, but she defiantly countered that even if he was a villain, she would make him hers alone. With a confident smirk, he challenged her to prove she had what it took. Soft moans and sighs filled the room as pink petals drifted through the air. Mao Qiue's face flushed, her eyes closed in a gasp of intense pleasure. A hand gripped tight, the intimacy of the moment escalating. The moment unfolded like blooming roses, ethereal and passionate. Their hands intertwined, gripping each other with a shared sigh of longing. Elsewhere, an attendant hurried up a long staircase, urgently calling for the eldest princess. The eldest princess demanded to know Linghu Hang's whereabouts, and a nervous attendant stammered that the young master was still resting. The eldest princess gasped Linghu Hang's name, her surprise evident as the truth seemed to rush into her awareness. The elegant woman lamented her impending death, just 2 days away, while Linghu Hang still found leisure to fool around. Her hand reached out, a silent accusation against Linghu Hang. Linghu Hang, startled from his reading, asked sharply what she was doing there. The distressed woman, miniaturized by her anger, demanded to know Mao Chiue's whereabouts, but Linghu Hang calmly stated she had already left. She lashed out, frustrated by his utter lack of discretion, but Linghu Hang merely countered with a confident smile, asking what he had to hide from her. Her gaze narrowed, demanding to know what he was reading with such intensity. With an almost casual air, Linghu Hang revealed the title, Sun Tzu's Art of War. Her face etched with worry, she questioned his motives, wondering if he was plotting rebellion instead of treating her illness as his father had instructed. Linghu Hang calmly admitted her illness was his doing from their intimate encounter, then, assuring her of her safety, declared his true intention to bait out Zhang Beixian. The woman, sensing Linghu Hang's unease, doubted Zhang Beixian's ability to cure her, but he urged patience, suggesting a possibility of success. An attendant rushed in, urgently summoning Linghu Hang to the front hall, announcing a sudden crisis. Linghu Hang pressed for details, learning young Master Tian had caused trouble at a brothel. Taking control, Linghu Hang instructed the attendant to inform his father he would arrive shortly, and the man bowed in immediate compliance. Linghu Hang, turning to the distressed woman, commanded her to remain hidden and await the opportune moment to act, to which she agreed. The scene shifted. A grand traditional estate stood under a clear sky. Linghu Hang demanded to know what crisis had unfolded. Linghu Feng raged, condemning his son's shameful visit to a brothel, but more so, for daring to dishonor the family name by committing murder. Linghu Tian, kneeling in distress, vehemently denied his involvement, claiming he had been studying and inexplicably found himself in a brothel. Linghu Hang's thoughts raced with disbelief, knowing Linghu Tian's preferences, confirming a setup and hinting at a deeper conspiracy. Linghu Feng's voice cut through the tension, demanding silence. The scene dissolved into a cartoonish depiction of raw, furious despair. Linghu Feng, miniaturized by his rage, violently chastised his son, shouting he would pretend he never had him, even as Linghu Tian desperately tried to explain himself. Linghu Hang intervened, calmly advising his second uncle to cease the beating, emphasizing that the immediate priority was addressing the murder, a point Linghu Feng readily acknowledged. Linghu Qiang turned to Linghu Hang, his face etched with worry, expressing his fear that Linghu Tian couldn't escape blame, especially since the governor was already dispatching men for his arrest. The mention of the governor instantly sparked a political realization in Linghu Hang, reminding him of the man's allegiance to the second prince's faction. Inside his cunning mind, Linghu Hang, in chibi form, silently lauded the master for clearly understanding the scheme, then vowed to turn their own dirty tactics against them. Linghu Hang commanded them not to resist the arrest, explaining that any interference would only fuel rumors that the Linghu family, bolstered by their imperial connections, deemed themselves above the law. Linghu Tian, desperate and in tears, pleaded with his brother, begging him not to let them take him away, fearing the grim fate awaiting him in jail. Linghu Hang sternly told his cousin that while the plot wasn't aimed at him, he had to bear the responsibility for the family's honor, chastising his childish behavior in such a critical moment. Linghu Hang reassured his second uncle he would protect his cousin and find the real culprit, then, with chilling resolve, instructed Linghu Tian not to confess, even under severe torture, to which Linghu Qiang emphatically agreed. Internally, Linghu Hang found the court's power games troublesome, contemplating rebellion as a backup plan, mentally tallying the vast strengths of his allies, the Mao family's troops, Xiao Churan's influence, and the crown prince's power. As Linghu Hang quietly pondered, Linghu Qiang watched with concern while Linghu Tian remained kneeling in distress. People cleared the way as Linghu Hang approached. A court official loudly declared their arrival, by order of the governor, to arrest Linghu Tian for murder. Here, the chibi court official exclaimed, quickly apprehending a kneeling, upset Linghu Tian. The court official's mind reeled in confusion, the Linghu family's lack of protection for a capital criminal completely undermined his orders to further incriminate them. Linghu Tian, despite the blood on his mouth, smiled unnervingly and declared his innocence, yet willingly offered to cooperate with the investigation. The official stammered, baffled by Linghu Tian's eagerness to be imprisoned, struggling to reconcile it with his orders to fabricate further charges. Linghu Tian's feigned concern only deepened the official's frustration, who mentally wondered how he could possibly lose his temper when their compliant attitude made them seem anything but evil. Giving up on understanding, the frustrated court official simply commanded his men to proceed with the arrest. As a chibi Linghu Qiang was comically dragged away, shouting his innocence and calling it unfair, Linghu Heng, Linghu Shang, and Linghu Feng all waved him off with knowing, sly farewells. Linghu Feng turned to Linghu Heng, his question heavy with expectation, seeking the next move in their intricate game. Linghu Qiang reassured Linghu Shang, urging him not to panic and promising to carefully consider the complex and tangled situation at hand. Linghu Shang, with a hint of relief, agreed to entrust the matter to his nephew's judgment. Linghu Qiang, deep in thought, considered how someone had overcome the newly increased, expert guard around Linghu Qiang, suspecting either a top expert or an inside agent. An angry Linghu Qiang concluded that an insider must have been helping them. One man, confused, asked another what the great master was saying, only to be shushed by the other man who implied Linghu Qiang had his own complex ideas. The older man, deep in concerned thought, acknowledged that he understood the gravity of the situation. The day progressed, calm and clear. Linghu Qiang sat, pensive, in the quiet room. He asked Xiao Chu Ran if she had witnessed his younger brother being taken again, and she simply affirmed. Xiao Chu Ran observed that Zhang Beixian and second prince Xiao Qingze had moved quickly, believing this was only the beginning of their schemes. She reminded him that even urgent cases in the capital had proper procedures, leading Linghu Qiang to declare he could no longer treat Zhang Beixian's bet as a joke. With fierce determination, Linghu Qiang vowed to publicly humiliate Zhang Beixian at the city gates. Xiao Chu Ran, however, warned him with concern that if Zhang Beixian was truly using cheats, Linghu Qiang himself might be the first to die. Dismissing her fears with confidence, Linghu Qiang asserted that having transmigrated into a novel as a villain multiple times, he wouldn't be easily killed and would deal with whatever came his way. Xiao Chu Ran, with a thoughtful expression, then inquired if he had any leads regarding Linghu Tian's disappearance. Linghu Qiang confidently held up 2 fingers, indicating he already had 2 suspects in mind. He named his treacherous third uncle and his second uncle's favored concubine, Xiao Taohong, as the potential culprits. He mused internally that while Xiao Taohong might have a motive to get rid of Linghu Tian to become the official wife, her cloistered life made such an elaborate plot difficult for her. But his third uncle was different, Linghu Qiang thought, a loyal lackey of the second prince and his mistress, Wan Yang, for whom scheming was second nature. The protagonist realized his third uncle could have discreetly removed Linghu Tian in the middle of the night without raising suspicion, a truly clever move. Xiao Chu Ran then directly asked if his strategy was to confront them head-on. Linghu Qiang, a sly smile playing on his lips, chose patience, preferring to let his enemies make a move so they would walk right into his hands. The vast traditional complex lay serene under the clear sky. Linghu Qiang sat calmly in a traditional room, reviewing a paper with a pigeon perched on his shoulder. The message on the paper boldly declared, "It's done." Meanwhile, Zhang Beixian, his hand angrily burning a piece of paper, seethed about Linghu Heng stealing his woman in a previous novel, declaring he now possessed his own cheats. With a menacing smile, Zhang Beixian threatened to utterly destroy Linghu Heng's family within 3 days, regardless of the villain he considered himself to be. Linghu Qiang sat confidently, a subtle rustle accompanying his calm presence. A respectful groom informed Linghu Qiang that Ning Yi and his wife were already waiting in the front hall. Linghu Qiang walked away through a bright doorway, leaving the groom bowing behind him. Linghu Qiang, clasping his hands politely, greeted young Master Ning and Lady Su, apologizing for his delay. Ning Yi, in a light robe, replied with a polite bow, while Su Huining offered her own elegant greeting. Linghu Qiang's eyes widened in clear surprise. Su Huining, radiating elegance in her flowing red dress, presented herself with dazzling beauty. Linghu Qiang, his back to the viewer, internally expressed his shock that such a top-tier beauty was married to a live-in son-in-law. His fist clenched in frustration, Linghu Qiang disdainfully thought that Ning Yi had no ability beyond relying on the Su family, deeming him a waste for such a woman. Linghu Qiang, with a welcoming smile, invited his guests to take a seat. A steaming cup of tea offered a peaceful welcome. Linghu Qiang formally explained that he had invited them on behalf of the second prince to discuss providing winter supplies for the northern border troops. Ning Yi, serious and attentive, invited Linghu Qiang to speak freely. Linghu Qiang informed them that the court would purchase a large quantity of grain and cotton cloth, confident that they could negotiate a fair price. A subtle, knowing smile played on Linghu Qiang's lips. Ning Yi confirmed his understanding and promised to discuss pricing with the other merchants. Linghu Qiang then casually inquired about Lady Su's past engagement to the eldest son of the Linghu family, noting tensions between the two families, which caused Ning Yi to express worry. Su Huining, her expression serious, confirmed that such a matter indeed existed. Ning Yi explained with slight discomfort that his marriage to Weijing had drawn criticism from the Linghu family and was still under mediation. Internally, Su Huining was perplexed, wondering what kind of play they were putting on, given that Linghu Qiang and Ning Yi had been sworn brothers just last week. Linghu Qiang smirked, a knowing look confirming his full understanding of the intricate situation. Ning Yi politely excused himself, promising to discuss the matter further upon his return. As Ning Yi bowed respectfully, Linghu Qiang told him he would await his reply. The cart began to move away, its wheels making a rhythmic sound. With a sly smirk, Linghu Qiang confirmed his suspicion that Ning Yi and Linghu Hang were indeed working together, concluding that Miss Su's marriage to him was like sending a lamb into a tiger's mouth. In the intense mining pit, the sharp clang of picks echoed as miners struck the glowing blue crystals. A man in a maroon scarf warned his group of hooded figures to remain vigilant in the vast, hazy desert. Zhang Beixian, Mao Qiue, and a cloaked companion surveyed the expansive desert, sensing an unsettling shift in the air. Linghu Qiang felt the chaotic aura of the place, deciding he needed to activate his danger perception to investigate the source. Red exclamation marks pulsed ominously at a dark cave entrance, signaling an immediate, unseen threat. Startled, Linghu Qiang cried out that monsters were present, alarming Mao Qiue, though the miners remained unaware. The man in the maroon scarf angrily confronted Linghu Qiang and his companions, demanding to know why they weren't working. Linghu Qiang, serious, tried to warn the captain that a large group of monsters was lurking nearby. He pointed directly into the distance, indicating the immediate danger to the oblivious miners. The miners, startled by the mention of monsters, reacted with fear and disbelief, not wanting to face death in the pits. The man in the maroon scarf, seething with anger, immediately shut down the warning, telling Linghu Qiang to do his job. He confidently dismissed the threat, stating he had already patrolled the area and accused Linghu Qiang of disrupting morale. Concerned, Mao Qiue turned to Linghu Qiang, seeking clarification on the escalating situation. Linghu Qiang gravely reiterated his warning, stressing that at least a dozen monsters could charge out at any moment, causing the captain to show a flicker of concern. The man in the maroon scarf, though still defiant, sternly ordered his hooded figures to strengthen their patrol, which they acknowledged. Suddenly, dark human-like figures erupted across the mining area, attacking the unsuspecting miners and plunging the desert into chaos. On the horizon, several large, monstrous creatures began to gather, their silhouettes growing more ominous in the twilight. A fierce monster roared and attacked, sending a human figure screaming and collapsing to the ground. The man in the maroon scarf stared in horrified disbelief, finally realizing the monsters were real. Miners screamed for help as the monstrous horde charged, unleashing widespread chaos and destruction. A miner shrieked in terror as a monster's claw violently struck him down. Hooded figures, armed with shields and swords, quickly assembled their ranks, preparing to engage the invading horde. The hooded figures launched into fierce combat, clashing against the monsters with impacts echoing through the desert. The man in the maroon scarf observed the brutal battle, acknowledging their bait had worked, but noting the main target had yet to appear. Monsters continued their relentless assault, met by the desperate resistance of the hooded figures. One monster fell with a heavy impact, raising a cloud of dust and blood into the air. A hooded figure commanded a halt, standing triumphantly over a fallen monster, but caution still lingered in the air. The hooded figure reported the monsters had been cleared, but the man in the maroon scarf, ever vigilant, ordered them to maintain their alert. Suddenly, the rocky desert ground violently shook, cracking open with a mighty roar that sent debris flying. A powerful, shadowy figure, wielding two weapons, leaped into action with an earth-shattering impact. The man in the maroon scarf looked up, startled and perplexed by the sudden appearance of the unknown entity. A large, muscular monster with red hair powered up with a furious roar, causing two hooded figures to recoil in shock. The fearsome creature was revealed to be a Tengu, a rank 3, level 39 monster. A sinister smile crept onto the man in the maroon scarf's face, satisfied that the creature they had lured was finally out. He then addressed his men, telling them they had work to do against this new formidable foe. The powerful Tengu slowly rose from the ground, injured but still formidable, gripping its large weapon. The monster moved with incredible speed, effortlessly knocking back the hooded figures with powerful strikes. Hooded figures screamed in terror and struggled to defend themselves, collapsing under the monster's overwhelming assault. Elsewhere, a blue-haired woman calmly issued an order to retrieve the item, confirming the monster's emergence was all part of a larger plan. The man in the maroon scarf ran with fierce determination, assuring his unknown miss of his commitment. With a fiery aura, he launched a powerful attack against the monster, vowing it would never return. A devastating explosion of fire consumed the area, unleashed by the man in the maroon scarf.